Chapter 119. Late at night, March 30, 1229 of the Ziyun era. Whoosh! A huge object streaked across the clouds like a gust of wind, entering the skies above the Chu royal city and directly above the Chu royal household. After the huge creature stopped in the clouds above the Chu royal household, a powerful voice rang out from its back. Descend! Suddenly, the huge object broke through the clouds and landed on the Chu royal household. After the layers of clouds dispersed, a huge rock appeared. Its wings were 8 meters wide when spread out, looking majestic and awe-inspiring. The rock's entire body was dark green, and its pupils were ash white. Before long, it had already landed in the vast front courtyard of the Chu royal household. Who are you? The rock landed on the ground, creating quite a commotion. 2 squads of guards in charge of patrolling the Chu royal household shouted as they surrounded the rock from all directions. The tips of the spears in their hands gleamed with a sharp and cold light under the moonlight. However, when the 2 teams of guards saw the behemoth in front of them through the moonlight, their expressions changed drastically. A flying demonic beast? The great rock before Zhang Xian was 2 meters tall, and its body was massive. It was like a small hill, and it emanated an intense pressure. It's me. An elderly voice rang out as an elderly figure flew down from the rock's back and appeared in front of a group of guards. The moonlight fell onto the old man's face, causing the expressions of the guards to become serious, and then they bowed in unison to the old man. Second Elder. The old man was the second elder of the Chu royal household, Xiang Donghua. However, after Xiang Donghua landed, he did not pay any attention to these guards. Instead, he turned around to look at the rock's back and respectfully bowed down. Commander Xiao, I will bring you to see His Highness. All right. An indifferent voice came from the great Peng's back. Immediately, a tall and sturdy figure jumped down from the great Peng's back. His movements were as smooth as flowing water, much smoother than Xiang Donghua's. The moonlight shone down, revealing the owner of this burly figure. It was a middle-aged man in golden armor. He looked to be in his 60s, his hair was half white, and his face was half white. He had tiger-like eyebrows and big eyes, and he exuded an imposing aura. This is the commander of the Imperial Guards of Yunyang Country, Xiao Jiancheng, Commander Xiao. Xiang Donghua, who was afraid that the guards would neglect the newcomers, introduced them to the guards in a serious tone. The group of guards was stunned for a moment before they respectfully bowed to the middle-aged man. Greetings, Commander Xiao. Yes. Xiao Jiancheng nodded slightly at the guards and looked at Xiang Donghua. Let's go. Yes. Hearing this, Xiang Donghua immediately led the way to the residence of the king of the Chu royal household. After the 2 of them left, the guards of the Chu royal household gradually recovered from their shock. Oh my God! That person just now was actually the commander of the Imperial Guard of Yunyang Country, Xiao Jiancheng. I heard that this Xiao Jiancheng had already attained great consummation of the Qi gathering 10 years ago. Among all the great consummation adepts in the Imperial Court of Yunyang Country, his ability ranks among the top. A guard said in a low voice. This Commander Xiao came to the western ridge of the Chu King 4 years ago, but he did not enter the Chu royal city, but went directly to the Lost Forest. His purpose that time was to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles in the Lost Forest. Yes, I know about that too. It is said that although Commander Xiao was a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering, he was still defeated by the 2 golden-crowned eagles, and several of his entourage died. The golden-crowned eagles have the advantage of flight, and although they are only petty consummation demons, they do not fear great consummation adepts. It looks like Commander Xiao is here to avenge his humiliation. He would not have come if he was not confident. If I am not wrong, this giant bird before us is the petty consummation demon, the cloud condor, that the Imperial Court of Yunyang has tamed. Among the guards of the Chu royal family, there was no lack of well-informed people who knew that the Imperial Court of Yunyang had a petty consummation demon, the cloud condor. Even the cloud condor has been mobilized. Looks like the imperial court of Yunyang is determined to win this time. 4 years ago, if Commander Xiao had come with the cloud condor, the 2 golden-crowned eagles of the Lost Forest would not have survived until now. A famous great consummation adept and a petty consummation demon working together, wouldn't it be a piece of cake to deal with those 2 golden-crowned eagles? Just as the guards of the Chu royal family were in a state of shock and did not disperse for a long time, the second elder of the Chu royal family, Xiang Donghua, had already arrived at the residence of the Chu king with the commander of the imperial guard, Xiao Jiancheng. Your Highness. Standing in the spacious courtyard, Xiang Donghua called out to one of the rooms. Although it was late at night, the room was still brightly lit, and the person inside was obviously still awake. Second elder, you're back so soon. As soon as Xiang Donghua's voice fell, a voice filled with surprise came from inside. Not long after the voice came out, there was the creaking sound of the door opening, and the figure of the Chu king, Xiang Xiong, strode out of the room. Now, Xiang Xiong was only wearing a sleeping robe, and it was obvious that he was ready to sleep. Commander Xiao. Just as he stepped out of the room, Xiang Xiong saw Xiao Jiancheng standing beside Xiang Donghua, and he could not help but be taken aback. He had never imagined that the imperial court of Yunyang would send this person this time. 4 years ago, this person had already come to the western ridge of the Chu king in order to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles, but he had returned empty-handed, and even a few of his entourage had died. In his view, although 4 years had passed, the person before him still might not be able to deal with the 2 golden-crowned eagles. Your Highness, it's been a long time. Xiao Jiancheng nodded lightly at Xiang Xiong. Although Xiang Xiong was a king who controlled a ridge, his status in the country of Yunyang was not as high as Xiao Jiancheng's. In addition, Xiang Xiong's ability was far below his, so there was no need for him to bow. Instead, Xiang Xiong hurriedly bowed to Xiao Jiancheng after a moment of shock. Xiang Xiong of the Chu royal family of the western ridge of the Chu king greets Commander Xiao. Although Xiang Xiong did not think that Xiao Jiancheng had the ability to deal with the 2 golden-crowned eagles, given Xiao Jiancheng's ability and status, he still did not dare to slight him. It looks like the Chu king has no confidence in me. Xiao Jiancheng had lived for most of his life, and how could he not see Xiang Xiong's expression? Commander Xiao must be joking, Xiang Xiong would not dare. Xiang Xiong smiled awkwardly. Your Highness. Just then, Xiang Donghua, who was standing to one side, spoke up. Commander Xiao, ever since he was defeated by the 2 golden-crowned eagles 4 years ago, he began to train hard in the art of the bow. Later, he paid a great price to exchange for a second-grade archery technique from the second elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, penetrating rainbow arrow. Commander Xiao has always been ashamed of what happened 4 years ago and has always wanted to avenge himself. As Xiang Donghua finished speaking, Xiang Xiong's eyes lit up. Trained hard in the art of the bow for 4 years? Second-grade archery technique, penetrating rainbow arrow? If it was said that he didn't have much confidence in Commander Xiao just a moment ago. But now, he was confident again. Commander Xiao's achievements in martial arts were enough to show that he was a man of extraordinary talent, and that he had trained hard in the art of the bow for 4 years, he was sure to be successful. Furthermore, he had also practiced a second-grade archery technique, penetrating rainbow arrow, and with his great consummation of the Qi gathering, it should not have been difficult for him to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles. Most importantly, as Xiang Xiong's eyes lit up, Xiang Donghua continued, Commander Xiao has come this time with the cloud condor that the imperial family has tamed. Almost as soon as Xiang Donghua finished speaking, Xiang Xiong's eyes narrowed. Cloud condor? Now, he finally understood why the second elder of the Chu royal family had been able to return in such a short time. Under normal circumstances, with the speed of this second elder's mount, a level 7 demon lightning leopard, it would have taken him at least 4 months to travel between the Chu royal city and the imperial city of Yunyang. But now, in just over 2 months, he had returned. Now, it seemed that he had returned on the Cloud Condor with Commander Xiao. Huh, Xiang Xiong could not help but laugh heartily as he recovered his wits. After the laughter had subsided, Xiang Xiong looked at Commander Xiao again, his eyes shining with confidence. Commander Xiao, with the Cloud Condor, this time, you will definitely be able to kill those 2 golden-crowned eagles easily. Commander Xiao, when do you intend to strike? Xiang Xiong asked with a serious expression. It has been a long journey, and I would like to freshen up and get some sleep before striking tomorrow morning, Xiao Jianqing said calmly. Before that, I hope that you will send someone to keep a close eye on that youth and not let him escape. If he tries to escape, wake me immediately. Yes, Your Highness. Xiang Xiong acknowledged respectfully and allowed Xiang Donghua, the second elder of the Chu royal family, to arrange a place for Xiao Jianqing to rest while he returned to his room to change his clothes. Your Highness. Inside the room, Fan Ji, who was dressed in a nightgown, asked as she watched Xiang Xiong change, that Commander Xiao, together with the Cloud Condor of the Imperial Court of Yunyang, should be able to deal with that youth and the 2 golden-crowned eagles by his side without fail? As long as that youth does not escape, of course it is. Xiang Xiong hurried out after changing his clothes. Now, I will go look for Xue Meng and get him to send someone to keep a close eye on Chu Xiaofan to prevent anyone from informing the youth of his escape. Your Highness, tomorrow, Commander Xiao and the Cloud Condor will definitely help you avenge the extermination of the Fan family. Tonight, you can have a good night's sleep. Chapter 120. Once the news in the Chu royal city spread, it quickly reached the ears of some of the tycoon families. News spread very quickly among the tycoon families in the Chu royal city, and in less than 2 hours, all the tycoon families in the Chu royal city knew that the Imperial Court of Yunyang had sent someone to the Chu royal city. As time passed, the news continued to spread to the various Grand Shi families. At the same time, Chu Xiaofan was being watched closely by the city guard, and the streets and alleys around Chu Xiaofan had been completely sealed off to prevent anyone from entering. Tonight, I only have one request. Don't let anyone get close to Chu Xiaofan, and tell Zhou Donghuang about this. This was all the Chu King Xiang Xiong said when he found the commander of the city guard, Xue Meng. If no one had tipped him off, he did not think that Zhou Donghuang would know that Commander Xiao had brought the Cloud Condor to the Chu royal city, so there was no need to worry that Zhou Donghuang would leave. Of course, if Zhou Donghuang happened to want to leave tonight, the city guard would not be able to stop him, because Zhou Donghuang had 2 golden-crowned eagles and could leave directly by air. Because of this, before he returned from Xue Meng's place, he had instructed Xue Meng to personally watch the skies above Chu Xiaofan, and if he discovered any strange movements from the golden-crowned eagles, he would immediately send word back to the Chu royal family. At that time, he would wake Commander Xiao and ride the Cloud Condor in pursuit of Zhou Donghuang, who had left on the golden-crowned eagles. Zhou Donghuang has many people with him, and it is impossible for him to leave on 2 golden-crowned eagles at the same time. At least he would have to make 2 trips to ensure that the inn is empty. Thinking of this, Xiang Xiong was greatly reassured. The Shi family mansion. In a spacious courtyard, the lights were brightly lit. 3 people sat around a stone table in the courtyard. Grandfather, I remember that 4 years ago, the great consummation adept sent by the Imperial Court of Yunyang to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles was the commander of the Imperial Guard of Yunyang, Xiao Jianqing, right? Sure, you looked at Shi Ji, who was sitting beside him, and frowned slightly. That time, he returned in defeat. This time, even if he makes a comeback, he might not be able to do anything to those 2 golden-crowned eagles, right? Sure, you had just arrived at the residence of his grandfather, Shi Ji. Currently, he only knew that the Imperial Court of Yunyang had sent Xiao Jianqing, but he did not know that the Imperial Court of Yunyang had sent the Cloud Condor as well. Father, you should have told Xiao Yu directly. Look, it's not just me, even Xiao Yu doesn't think that Xiao Jianqing has the ability to deal with those 2 golden-crowned eagles alone. The second master of the Shi family, Shi Yan, was also there. He looked at Shi and shook his head with a smile. Hearing Shi Yan's words, Shi couldn't help but be startled. Second uncle, what do you mean? Shi Yan laughed out loud. After a long while, he stopped laughing and deliberately kept them guessing. Little you, Commander Xiao did not come alone this time. You didn't come alone? Shi Yu's eyes lit up. Who else came with him? Take a guess. Shi Yan asked with a smile. Guess? Shi Yu frowned slightly, and after a moment's thought, his eyes suddenly lit up. Second uncle, the one who came with Commander Xiao this time, could it be the Cloud Condor of the Imperial Court of Yunyang? Little you can even guess that? Now, not only was Shi Yan stunned, but Shi was also stunned. Really? Shi Yu had not expected his guess to be right, but then he shook his head with a smile. Actually, I was just putting myself in the shoes of the Emperor of the Imperial Court of Yunyang and letting my imagination run wild. If I were him, I would definitely not send other great consummation adepts to go with him, because that would be too wasteful. But I can't do something I have no confidence in. Therefore, sending the Cloud Condor and Commander Xiao together is undoubtedly the best choice. Shi Yu finished in one breath. Hearing Shi Yu's words, Shi said with a gratified expression, the Shi family is fortunate to have you. Grandfather believes that in the future, the Shi family will definitely go far under your leadership. Grandfather, you flatter me. Shi Yu smiled modestly. His gaze subconsciously turned in the direction of Chuxiu, and a cold light rose in his eyes. With Commander Xiao and the Cloud Condor attacking together, those two golden-crowned eagles will surely die. As for Zhou Donghuang, they probably won't kill him. After all, Zhou Donghuang probably has all sorts of treasures left behind by a primal core adept. However, even if they don't kill him for now, Zhou Donghuang will not have a good ending. The Imperial Court of Yunyang will not allow such a threat to remain in this world. Father, the person who killed you is going to join you soon. The Tang family household. The great hall was also brightly lit. The patriarch of the Tang family, Tang Liuyan, sat at the head of the table with a serious expression. Just as I guessed, the Imperial Court of Yunyang has sent the petty consummation demon, the Cloud Condor. Together with Xiao Jiancheng, who has been famous for many years. Young Master Donghuang is in danger this time. Tang Liuyan let out a long sigh as he muttered to himself. Xiao Jiancheng, together with a flying demon that is as fast as the two golden-crowned eagles, the two golden-crowned eagles no longer have any advantage, and if they fight, they will definitely die. Head Elder Tang Yusen shook his head with a bitter smile. Once the two golden-crowned eagles are dead, will young Master Donghuang have the ability to stand against Commander Xiao, who has been famous for many years in Yunyang? The second elder of the Tang family, Tang Yong, was also present, and his eyes flashed with uncertainty. It will be difficult. Tang Liuyan shook his head. Although he had confidence in the youth's opponent this time was Xiao Jiancheng, who had the petty consummation demon, the Cloud Condor, assisting him, and he could not help but feel that the youth's chances were slim. Patriarch, are we just going to watch young Master Donghuang throw his life away like this? Tang Yong frowned and said in a low voice, no matter what, he saved the lives of the three of us. If not for him, Head Elder and I would definitely have died, and even you, Patriarch, might not have been able to escape from that grizzly bear. That's right, Patriarch. Tang Yusen also looked at Tang Liuyan. Why don't we make a trip to Chuxiu and find young Master Donghuang, inform him of this, and get him to leave as soon as possible? Head Elder, in your eyes, am I, Tang Liuyan, an ungrateful person? Tang Liuyan smiled bitterly. The moment I received the news, I personally went to Chuxiu, but I had no way of getting close. Chuxiu has already been completely surrounded by the city guard, led by Shuemeng himself. Now, even a fly would not be able to get close to Chuxiu, much less enter it. Tang Liuyan shook his head as he said this. Furthermore, some time ago, I specially made a trip to the Ren family household to remind young Master Dong Huang to leave through young Mistress Ren Jiapei of the Ren family, who is on good terms with young Master Dong Huang. However, although Mistress Ren reminded him, he had no intention of leaving. Because of this, I made another trip to the Ren family household to confirm with Mistress Ren, but she said that she believed that her big brother Zhou would be able to overcome this crisis. I have already done this much, what else do you think I can do? Faced with Tang Liuyan's questioning, both Tang Yusen and Tang Yong could not help but shake their heads with a bitter smile. Only now did they realize that the patriarch of the Tang family had done so many things behind the scenes. However, young Master Dong Huang did not seem to appreciate it. The Yang family household. The imperial court of Yunyang country sent Xiao Jiansheng and the petty consummation demon, the cloud condor. Good, very good. The patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Yunji, was ecstatic when he received the news. Some time ago, when the Tang family had hosted a banquet, 2 golden-crowned eagles from the Lost Forest had descended, and he had personally witnessed the youth stepping on one of the golden-crowned eagles and leaving under the escort of the other golden-crowned eagle. If he had not chased his niece out of the Yang family would definitely have risen through the ranks through the youth who was on good terms with his niece. If his niece and the youth had gotten together, the Yang family would have become a tycoon family. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. There were some things that had been done, and it was hard to take back what had been spilled. Later, when he found out that the youth had used the golden-crowned eagles to destroy the Fan family of Tianqiu City, he no longer regretted it, and even began to gloat, thinking that the youth was doomed. Destroying the Tycoon Fan family and ignoring the ban of the imperial court of Yunyang country was tantamount to seeking death. Even if the Chu royal family could not deal with the youth, the imperial court of Yunyang country, in order to protect the dignity of the imperial court, would not tolerate the youth getting away scot-free. As a matter of fact, there was news tonight. The imperial court of Yunyang country had sent a great consummation adept who had been famous for more than 10 years, and a petty consummation flying demon, the cloud condor, to deal with Zhou Donghuang. Under such circumstances, he did not think that Zhou Donghuang would survive. Die, as long as he's dead, I won't have any more regrets. Yang Yunji's eyes flashed coldly, and he gritted his teeth. His death will even prove that my decision was correct. If I had not chased that girl Zixi out of the Yang family, Zhou Donghuang would have offended the imperial court of Yunyang country, and that girl would have been so close to him, and the Yang family might have been implicated. At the same time, many of the senior members of the Tycoon and Grand families had gathered overnight to discuss the arrival of the imperial court of Yunyang country that night. The Chu king has ordered the city guards to seal off all the streets and alleys around Chuxiu Inn, presumably to prevent anyone from tipping off Zhou Donghuang. Commander Xiao from the imperial court obviously does not intend to make a move tonight. He and the Cloud Condor have traveled all the way here, and resting for the night will allow them to recharge their energy and face Zhou Donghuang and the 2 golden-crowned eagles in their best condition. I'm afraid there will be a fierce battle at Chuxiu Inn tomorrow. Disperse for now, go back and rest. Tomorrow morning, head to Chuxiu Inn to watch Commander Xiao and the Cloud Condor battle Zhou Donghuang and the 2 golden-crowned eagles. Of course, most people could not sleep because they were anticipating the battle at Chuxiu Inn the next day. Chapter 121. Early morning, March 31, 1229 of the Ziyun era. Whoosh! A huge creature flew out from the Chu royal household like a gust of wind, and before long it had arrived above Chuxiu Inn. It hovered in the air, looking down at the courtyard below. Commander Xiao has arrived. The commander of the Chu royal city guard, Xue Meng, who was standing guard outside Chuxiu Inn, saw the giant rock fly into Chuxiu Inn, and his eyes lit up. Let's go in. The Chu king, Xiang Xiong, was standing beside Xue Meng, and at the same time that Xue Meng saw the giant rock fly into Chuxiu Inn, he naturally saw it as well, and immediately gave the order to step into Chuxiu Inn. Behind Xiang Xiong, 2 old men followed closely. One of the old men was the second elder of the Chu royal household, Xiang Donghua, who had personally made a trip to the Yunyang imperial court to invite back the commander of the imperial guard, Xiao Jiancheng. The other old man was the head elder of the Chu royal household, Xiang Tong. "Yes, Your Highness." As Shuemeng responded, he turned to the deputy behind him and ordered, "Have them all withdraw. Those who need to rest, rest, and those who need to patrol the capital, continue patrolling the capital." At Shuemeng's order, the group of city guard soldiers who had sealed off the streets and alleys around Chuxiu Inn were dismissed. The existence of these city guard soldiers was to prevent anyone from getting close to Chuxiu Inn to tip off the youth. Now that the commander of the Imperial Guards and the Cloud Condor had arrived, there was naturally no need to worry about anyone informing the young man of the situation. If they dared to tip off the youth now, not only would it be suicidal, but even if the tip was successful, the youth would not have a chance to escape. Under these circumstances, there was no point in the group of city guard soldiers continuing to stand guard here. When the rock carried Xiao Jiancheng into the sky above Chuxiu Inn, no less than 20 flying beasts soared into the sky around Chuxiu Inn and approached it. There were more or less 1 or 2 people standing on the backs of these flying demonic beasts. However, only 2 of these flying demonic beasts flew into the sky above the edge of Chuxiu Inn. The rest of the demonic beasts could only fly to the outskirts of Chuxiu Inn. This Cloud Condor is indeed a petty consummation demon, the Golden Flame Eagle, a level 7 flying demon that our Ouyang family has tamed, dares not enter this place again. An eagle with wings that looked like they were on fire circled above the edge of Chuxiu Inn. Its body was noticeably smaller than the golden-crowned eagle, and there were 2 people standing on it. A middle-aged man and a young man. The one who sighed with emotion was the middle-aged man among the 2. The middle-aged man wore a green robe and had a medium build. His long black hair draped over his back, and his eyes were wise and sharp. He was staring at the rock circling high above Chuxiu Inn from afar. "Chief Ouyang, it's not just the Ouyang family's golden flame eagle, isn't it the same for the level 7 flying demon, the white-headed vulture, raised by the Lu family?" Not far away, a hearty voice followed. The speaker was a middle-aged man in a long gray robe. He was thin, and half of his hair was white. He was smiling at the green-robed middle-aged man on the back of the golden flame eagle. This middle-aged man also arrived on a flying demonic beast. This flying demonic beast was a vulture with black feathers all over its body. The only difference was that the feathers around its bald head were white. As it circled in the air, it looked at the rock in the distance with a similarly fearful gaze. "Greetings, Uncle Lu." At the same time, the young man on the back of the golden flame eagle bowed respectfully to the middle-aged man in the gray robe on the white-headed vulture's back. "Huh, in the blink of an eye, Xiaofan has grown so big. How is it? Do you have a sweetheart? If not, Uncle Lu can pick a pretty one for you from the Lu family. Our Lu family can also form a marriage alliance with the Ouyang family." Faced with the young man's bow, the middle-aged man in the gray robe laughed, his face full of friendliness. These 3 people were from 2 of the 3 elite tycoon families of the Chu royal city. They were the chief of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Yi, the first young master of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Xiaoping, and the chief of the Lu family, Lu Yuanshan. Patriarch Lu, actually we should be content, in the Chu royal city, besides the Chu royal family's level 8 flying demon, only the flying demons that our 2 families have tamed are more powerful, Lu Yun said. Hearing Lu Yuanshan's words, Ouyang Yi smiled as he looked to the east. "Don't you see that the chief of the Lu family can only stand on the back of his level 6 flying demon, the storm bird, looking at Chuxiu Inn from afar? What can he see from so far away? I really don't know what he's doing here." Flying demonic beasts were notoriously difficult to tame. In the whole of the Chu royal city, even in the whole of the western ridge of the Chu king, only the Chu royal family raised a level 8 flying demon. However, today, the Chu king had not come on his flying demon, because he knew that the flying demon would not dare to go near the Cloud Condor and the golden-crowned eagle. he might as well enter Chuxiu in alone. That way, he would be able to witness the imperial family's envoy kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles and capture the youth alive. In the whole of the Chu royal city, only the 2 elite tycoon families, the Ouyang family and the Lu family, had level 7 flying demons. As for the other families, they only raised some level 5 or level 6 flying demons, and now they could only watch the show from the outer perimeter of Chuxiu. The Lu family originally had a level 7 flying demon beast, but not long after that flying demon beast hatched from its egg, it was roasted and eaten by old Lu's youngest son. Lu Yuanshan laughed. The Chu king and Commander Shui are now standing outside the courtyard of the guest house. It looks like that courtyard is where the youth lives. Suddenly, Lu Yuanshan's gaze landed on the interior of Chuxiu. Now, because of the distance, he could only vaguely make out 4 figures standing outside the courtyard of the guest house. From the attire of the leader, it was not difficult to recognize that he was the Chu king of the Chu royal family, Xiang Xiong. We are so close, but we can only see so vaguely. Old Lu and the rest will definitely not be able to see clearly. Ouyang Yi shook his head with a bitter smile. That can't be helped, we can't just walk into Chuxiu to watch the show, can we? Even if the Chu king does not blame us, who knows if the imperial family's envoy will find us an eyesore and attack us? Lu Yuanshan also smiled bitterly. That is a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering. Even if he pressed down with one hand, we would not be able to withstand it. Father. Uncle Lu. Just as Ouyang Yi and Lu Yuanshan were smiling bitterly, Ouyang Qiuping looked into Chuxiu and exclaimed, "Look! It's those 2 golden-crowned eagles. Those 2 golden-crowned eagles are in the courtyard of the guest house next door, and now they are in the air above the courtyard of the guest house in front of the Chu king." Hearing this, Ouyang Yi and Lu Yuanshan looked back into Chuxiu and realized that it was indeed so. It looks like that youth is indeed staying in that guest house. In the courtyard of guest house number 2. A youth dressed in robes whiter than snow was sitting at the stone table, drinking tea contentedly. "Young master! Young master!" As the voices of the 2 demonic beasts were heard, 2 pitch-black giant eagles with golden crowns appeared in the sky above the courtyard where the young man was. "Big Gold, Little Gold, what are you 2 so excited about so early in the morning?" The youth asked lazily as he raised his eyelids lazily and glanced at the 2 golden-crowned eagles circling low in the air. "Young master, there's a giant rock up there, and from its aura, it's no weaker than us. It should also be a petty consummation flying demon." Big Gold looked warily at the sky and said, "I have some impression of the person on its back. It's the human who was beaten up by Little Gold and I 4 years ago, and he's a great consummation adept. Big brother, now that you mention it, I remember him too." Little Gold looked up at the sky and said, "I remember this human too." At that time, the people around him all had a Qi gathering elixir that doubled the sensitivity to Qi. That time, it could be said that in all the years we've been in the Lost Forest, we've gained the most. Little Gold quickly looked away. But now that we have the Qi gathering elixir from young master, that kind of Qi gathering elixir is just rubbish. That giant rock is coming down. Following Big Gold's warning, the giant rock swooped down from the sky and landed in the air above the courtyard of the youth. As it circled, it stared at Big Gold and Little Gold warily. "You are Zhou Donghuang?" On the back of the giant rock, a white-haired, burly middle-aged man dressed in golden armor looked down coldly at the youth drinking tea in the courtyard and asked in an almost interrogative tone. This man and bird were the great consummation adept of the Yunyang imperial court, Shao Jiancheng, and the petty consummation demon, the cloud condor. Boom! Almost as soon as Shao Jiancheng finished speaking, the door of courtyard number 2 was blasted open with brute force, and rubble scattered everywhere. Following that, 4 figures, led by a middle-aged man in a dark golden dragon robe, strode into courtyard number 2 and stared at the youth fiercely. "I was wondering why you were standing outside so stupidly, not making a sound or coming in, so, you were waiting for him." The youth spread out his arms, stretched lazily, and stood up lazily. His gaze swept across the four people who had just entered, and finally landed on the burly middle-aged man on the back of the cloud condor. Hearing the youth's words, the expressions of the four people, led by the Chu king, Xiong, could not help but freeze. Only then did they realize, the youth had already discovered them. Are you from the imperial court of Yunyang? The youth asked calmly as he narrowed his eyes and looked at the burly middle-aged man in golden armor on the back of the cloud condor. Chapter 122. That's right. Faced with the youth's question, the burly man's expression was cold, and his gaze was cold as he said proudly, I am the fourth elder of the imperial court of Yunyang, the commander of the imperial guard of Yunyang, Xiao Jiancheng. Xiao Jiancheng was not only the commander of the imperial guard of Yunyang, but also the fourth elder of the imperial court of Yunyang, one of the great consummation adepts of the imperial court of Yunyang, and one of the most powerful. It could be said that in the country of Yunyang, as long as one was not too ignorant, basically everyone knew of Xiao Jiancheng, who had made a name for himself many years as a great consummation adept. Never heard of you. The youth said calmly, causing Xiao Jiancheng's expression to freeze, and the arrogance he had just displayed seemed to completely crumble and shatter in that instant. But I don't like it when someone stands above me. As the youth spoke again, the small metal ball that had appeared out of nowhere in his hand that he was toying with turned into a small metal sword with a cold gleam as it flew out. Swish! The small metal sword pierced through the air with a piercing whistle, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Crack! In the instant that the whistle disappeared, the youth's right hand, which he had not put down in time, opened slightly, and immediately, the small metal ball that the small metal sword had turned into was caught in his hand. At the same time, as the four men of the Chu royal family, led by the Chu king Xiong, watched in horror, the petty consummation demon cloud condor that had been circling low in the air plummeted to the ground. Boom! With a loud crash, the corpse of the cloud condor crashed heavily into the courtyard, and because the person on its back had pushed it before it hit the ground, its corpse had been smashed out of shape. If one looked closely, they could see that in the head of the cloud condor, there was a bloody hole that was still spurting blood. Obviously, this was the fatal wound. Crash! At the same time, the person who had fallen with the cloud condor struck decisively with a palm strike on the back of the cloud condor, using the force of the fall to reduce the force of the fall, and landed steadily in front of the four men of the Chu royal family. The speed of his reaction was too fast for the eyes to follow. Even the four members of the Chu royal family who were present knew that if they were in the same situation, they would surely fall with the cloud condor, and even if they did not die, they would be injured. The four of them subconsciously looked at the back of the burly figure in awe. However, they quickly regained their senses when they looked at the young man in white who was sitting lazily at the stone table. When they recalled the scene from before, their expressions changed drastically. Just now, the youth had only raised his hand casually, and a sword had flown out and ended the life of the petty consummation demon, the cloud condor. During this process, even Xiao Jiancheng, who was on the back of the cloud condor, only managed to react the moment the cloud condor died, and broke out in a cold sweat from the shock. What kind of trick was that? Although Xiao Jiancheng landed firmly on the ground and was unscathed, his expression was grave as he looked at the youth who had returned to the stone table to continue drinking tea. Before he had set off today, he had already confirmed from the Chu king, Xiong, that the youth before him was indeed from a small inferior prefecture in the western ridge of the Chu king. Furthermore, he was born and raised in that inferior prefecture. Thus, he could further confirm that this youth had indeed obtained a fortuitous encounter left behind by a great practitioner of the primal core stage. Early this morning, he had ridden the petty consummation demon, the cloud condor, here, thinking that he could easily kill the two golden-crowned eagles and avenge himself, then capture the youth and bring him back to the imperial court of Yunyang. However, he had never dreamed that the youth would kill the cloud condor with a single strike. The youth killed the cloud condor as soon as he attacked. The speed of the sword light was so fast that even he couldn't react in time, let alone the cloud condor. However, faced with Xiao Jianqing's question, the youth had no intention of paying any attention to him. He sat there as though no one else was present, quietly drinking his tea and playing with the small metal ball in his hand. Seeing this, Xiao Jianqing's expression darkened. He, Xiao Jianqing, had attained great consummation 10 years ago, and his status was extremely high even in the imperial court of Yunyang. Now, a young man actually dared to ignore him? If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of the young man's attack that caught him off guard, he would have been unable to restrain himself and captured the young man. Zhou Donghuang, do you think you're invincible just because you know some hidden weapons? A moment later, Xiao Jianqing could no longer hold it in when he saw that the youth was still ignoring him. He flew into a rage out of humiliation as a cold glint shot out of his eyes. Although, the young man's method just now made him very wary. However, he was the only one among the group of great consummation adepts in the imperial court of Yunyang who majored in defensive techniques, and his defensive prowess made him the best in Yunyang country below the Khanate stage. He thought back to the young man's previous move. If he had been prepared and vigilant from the start, he would have been able to stop him. Just now, the young man was only able to succeed because he was unprepared. After all, he had been circling in the air on his cloud condor mainly to guard against the two flying demons, the golden-crowned eagles. Who would have thought that the young man on the ground could pose a threat to him and the cloud condor in the air? I, Xiao Jianqing, have mastered the second-grade technique of the imperial court of Yunyang, reckless bull strength. I have also mastered a third-grade defensive technique, which I have combined with reckless bull strength to create a defensive technique that is almost as good as a first-grade defensive technique. Xiao Jianqing took a step forward and looked at the young man with an unfriendly expression. In the country of Yunyang, those below the Khanate stage who can break through my defense can be counted on one hand, and all of them are great consummation adepts who have touched the threshold of the Khanate stage. Today, I want to see if your hidden weapons can break through my defense. As he finished speaking, Xiao Jianqing suddenly took a step forward, and his entire person seemed to transform into a raging bull as he charged at Zhou Donghuang, who was still sipping his tea, faster and faster. The entire process happened without any warning, and even the 4 men from the Chu royal family did not expect Xiao Jianqing to attack so suddenly. As he neared Zhou Donghuang, the speed at which he moved caused the air to vibrate, and there was a clear and audible sonic boom. The sound of a sonic boom could only be produced when a force of 10,000 kilograms broke through the air. This showed that Xiao Jianqing was not holding back in his attack, and he was giving it his all. Obviously, although Xiao Jianqing said that he was not afraid of the young man's hidden weapons, he was actually very wary of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made his move without any warning the moment he finished his nonsense. Now, I want to see how you can use your hidden weapons. As he closed in on the young man, Xiao Jianqing's eyes were cold, and he did not think that the young man before him would have time to attack him with hidden weapons. Whoosh! Xiao Jianqing's hand formed a claw, and his target was the young man's right arm that was holding the small metal ball. He was obviously trying to restrain the young man's right arm so that he would not be able to continue using his fast hidden weapons. In Xiao Jianqing's view, he had attacked without warning, and he had used the imperial court's national technique, reckless bull strength. The young man would not be able to react in time. Your speed is not bad, but it's a pity that you're too clumsy. Faced with the menacing Xiao Jianqing, Zhou Donghuang's expression did not change. With a shake of his feet, his whole body rose into the air, as if defying gravity. Cloud Scaling Ladder, a first-grade swiftness technique. Zhou Donghuang had accidentally obtained this technique on Earth's Wutang Mountain in his previous life, and it was said to be the ultimate swiftness technique of the ancient Wutang sect. How is this possible? Seeing Zhou Donghuang rise into the air and appear above him in the blink of an eye, avoiding his attack, Xiao Jianqing's expression changed. First-grade swiftness technique. You actually know a first-grade swiftness technique. Xiao Jianqing's shocked and terrified voice rang out at the right time, echoing endlessly in the courtyard. Xiao Jianqing had seen a second-grade swiftness technique before, and it was definitely not this terrifying, so there was only one possibility: the young man was using a first-grade swiftness technique that even the imperial court did not have. First-grade swiftness technique? As Xiao Jianqing's voice reached the ears of the four men from the Chu royal family, their eyes widened. First-grade techniques, even in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, which was superior to the imperial court of Yunyang, there were only two. This young man had actually used a first-grade technique? Swoosh! As Zhou Donghuang used the cloud-scaling ladder to rise into the air, he waved his right hand again, and the sword sphere once again transformed into a small metal sword that whistled through the air, heading straight for Xiao Jianqing. Ah! Before Zhou Donghuang made his move, Xiao Jianqing had already forcefully used brute force to resist the force of inertia, stopping his body and putting all his strength into defense. His muscles bulged, and there was a faint glow on the surface of his skin. Qi permeated his body. This was a sign that he had touched the threshold of the Khanate stage. Of course, Xiao Jianqing's defensive techniques had barely touched the threshold of the Khanate stage, and he was still lacking in other areas. Seeing this, Zhou Donghuang laughed condescendingly. Child's play. Almost as soon as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, the small metal sword that the sword sphere had transformed into had already pierced through Xiao Jianqing's chest, through his body, and brought with it a mist of blood. Even so, the small metal sword was still unstained by the blood, and it circled once in the air before transforming back into a small metal sphere and returning to Zhou Donghuang's hand. Big brother, was this the small metal sphere that you were talking about earlier? Just now, the golden-crowned eagle Little Gold had already been frightened by Zhou Donghuang's method of killing the cloud condor, and now, seeing Zhou Donghuang use the same method to kill Xiao Jianqing, its eyes involuntarily filled with fear. Yes. Big Gold's tone was solemn with a tinge of fear. Chapter 123. Xiao Jianqing clutched his chest with both hands in an attempt to stop the bleeding, but blood mercilessly flowed out from the gaps between his fingers, causing his aura to wither and his body to tremble even more violently. Finally, Xiao Jianqing spat out one word before collapsing unwillingly as he watched the white figure land slowly. Thud. After Xiao Jianqing collapsed, his eyes were still staring fixedly at Zhou Donghuang, and even though the light had faded from his eyes, one could still see the indignation in them. Whoosh! Whoosh! After Xiao Jianqing collapsed, only the sound of the two golden-crowned eagles circling low in the air could be heard in the large courtyard. Zhou Donghuang sat back at the stone table and took a sip of the tea that had yet to cool. He looked calmly at the four men of the Chu royal family. The four men, who had been shocked by Xiao Jianqing's death in a single blow, felt the youth's gaze, and their expressions changed, and their eyes revealed a look of panic and fear. Although there were four of them. Even if the four of them combined, they might not be a match for Xiao Jianqing alone. Just now, the youth had killed Xiao Jianqing in a single blow, and they had long been frightened out of their wits. Who would dare to make an enemy out of him? Thud. The Chu king, Xiang Xiong, was the first to grit his teeth and kneel, kowtowing to the youth. Xiang Xiong was foolish and offended young Master Donghuang, I hope. I hope young Master Donghuang will forgive me. As the lord of the western ridge of the Chu king, Xiang Xiong valued his dignity very much, but even so, after seeing Xiao Jianqing and the cloud condor from the imperial court of Yunyang killed in a single blow by the youth before him, he had completely thrown his dignity to the back of his mind. Now, he only had one thought, and that was to survive at all costs. He had not seen the youth's methods with his own eyes, but he had heard of them. The family of his wife, Fan Ji, had been wiped out by the youth before him with the two golden-crowned eagles. Such a ruthless person who would easily wipe out an entire family could very well wipe out the entire Chu royal family in a fit of rage. Although the Chu royal family had a great consummation adept, he had only recently advanced to great consummation adept, and if he could not even defeat Xiao Jianqing, how could he be a match for this youth who had killed Xiao Jianqing with a single blow? Please forgive me, young Master Dong Huang. Please forgive me, young Master Dong Huang. Even Xiang Xiong, the Chu king, had knelt down. As Xiang Xiong's subordinates, Shui Meng and the other two also knelt down without any hesitation. If one looked closely, they could see that their bodies were trembling. The strength displayed by the youth was so terrifying that it was beyond their wildest dreams. Even the means of a Khanate cultivator. I'm afraid it's nothing more than this, right? Shui Meng and the other two were shocked. Of course, they were sure that the young man wasn't a Khanate realm cultivator. This was because once a Xiantian cultivator made a move, the powerful Xiantian qi in their body would involuntarily leak out from the surface of their body. The ability to release genuine qi was a sign of the innate realm. Furthermore, the youth did not show any signs of releasing his qi, whether it was at the start of his attack or when he demonstrated what appeared to be a first-grade swiftness technique. This meant that he was not yet a Khanate stage adept and was at most a great consummation adept of the qi gathering. As the four men of the Chu royal family knelt down and begged for mercy, Zhou Donghuang only glanced at them indifferently. Only when their faces were pale and their hearts were filled with trepidation did he make his move. Zhou Donghuang took out a piece of paper from his pocket and threw it casually, which landed lightly in front of Xiang Xiong. Gather all the herbs on this list and give them to me within 3 months. If you can't gather them, I'll take the lives of the 4 of you in 3 months. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Xiang Xiong and the other 3 heaved a sigh of relief and thanked Zhou Donghuang profusely. Farewell, young Master Donghuang. Xiang Xiong did not even look at the list of herbs that Zhou Donghuang had thrown over before he kept it in his pocket like it was a treasure. He knew that even if he had to give it his all, he had to gather all the herbs. Xiang Xiong, the Chu king of the western ridge of the Chu king, had come with such ferocity that he had to return dejectedly. As for the corpses of Xiao Jianqing and the cloud condor, Shui Meng and the other 2 very conscientiously helped the youth clear the area and carried them away, following behind Xiang Xiong. Although the cloud condor was a petty consummation demon and had many valuable items on it, Zhou Donghuang had no use for them, so he did not instruct the 4 men of the Chu royal family to dissect it and send it over later. Although those items were of extraordinary value, he was not short of money now. Today, he had already shown mercy by sparing the lives of the 4 men of the Chu royal family. If he really needed money, all he had to do was ask, and the Chu royal family would not give it to him? Would they dare not give it to him? Young master, are we just going to let them off? The golden-crowned eagle Little Gold could not help asking as he watched the 4 men of the Chu royal family leave and Zhou Donghuang show no intention of making a move. Without waiting for Zhou Donghuang's reply, it continued, today, if young master had not killed that petty consummation flying demon and that great consummation adept, I'm afraid they would not have let you off so easily. I know, Zhou Donghuang said indifferently. Zhou Donghuang said calmly, however, what would I gain by killing them? I might as well keep them alive, they might be of some use. Most of the herbs recorded on the piece of paper that Zhou Donghuang had given Xiang Xiong could not be bought with money, and they were all priceless herbs. In the western ridge of the Chu king, perhaps only the Chu royal family had the ability to gather those herbs in such a short time. And those herbs were the herbs that Zhou Donghuang was preparing to make the elixir, and they were only the main herbs. As for the supplementary herbs, he could get Fu to buy them from the big medicine shops in the Chu royal city. In 3 months, I will definitely attain great consummation of the qi gathering. Next, I have to prepare to break through to the Khanate stage. To break through to the Khanate stage, it would take a very, very long time if one relied solely on practice. However, there was a shortcut, and that was to use some rare herbs to help one attain the Khanate stage as quickly as possible. Among the herbs that Zhou Donghuang had asked Xiang Xiong to gather were some of the rare herbs that were the main herbs needed to make the elixir, and none of them could be missing. Those herbs. I should be able to gather them in the western ridge of the Chu king. Zhou Donghuang thought to himself as he narrowed his eyes. Ah Fu, Freezing Wind, Zhou Han, and Zhou Feng were also staying in the second guest room. Just now, although they had not walked out of their room, they had witnessed everything through the crack in the window. The great consummation adept from the imperial court of Yunyang had been killed by their young master. The king of the Chu royal family, Xiang Xiong, who controlled the western ridge of the Chu king, and who was a high and mighty figure in their eyes, had knelt before their young master and begged for mercy. All of this had completely stunned them, and they felt as if they were dreaming. Only when they realized that they were not dreaming did they turn around and return to practice even harder. The youth's strength had put a lot of pressure on them. Now, they were even more of a burden by the youth's side, and this was something that they were unwilling to accept. Your Highness, why do I feel that the piece of paper that the youth gave you with the herbs written on it was specially prepared for you? After leaving Chuxiu Inn, the second elder of the Chu royal family, Xiang Donghua, looked at the Chu king, Xiang Xiong, with a bitter smile. Isn't that obvious? Xiang Xiong shook his head. Although he was the head of the Chu royal family and had a high status in the western ridge of the Chu king, in front of a true martial practitioner, his status was not even worth mentioning. And that youth was obviously someone he could not afford to offend. He did not kill us because he weighed the pros and cons and felt that keeping us alive would be of greater use. Xiang Xiong continued. Just as Xiang Xiong and Xiang Donghua had thought, Zhou Donghuang had indeed guessed that they would come and knew that the imperial court of Yunyang would come. Killing the imperial court of Yunyang was just Zhou Donghuang's way of making an example out of them. When the four of them left Chuxiu Inn, they did not take the bodies of Shao Jianqing and the Cloud Condor with them. Instead, they left them at Chuxiu Inn. Taking them away in the day would attract too much attention. However, even so, the group of people in the sky who were watching with the help of flying demonic beasts still found some clues. The Chu king and the others have come out? What about Commander Shao from the Imperial Court? And the Cloud Condor? Why does it feel like after they swooped down, they did not appear again? That Commander Shao can't be drinking tea with that youth inside, right? The people on the back of a group of flying demonic beasts in the sky outside of Chuxiu Inn were confused. They had no idea what was going on. And the three people on the two flying demons in the sky at the edge of Chuxiu Inn still had expressions of indescribable shock on their faces. That Commander Shao and the Cloud Condor, they actually died at the hands of that youth? My God! That youth, who is he? I heard that he looks at most 17 or 18 years old, but he already has such power. Whether it was Lu Yuanshan of the Lu family, Ouyang Yi of the Ouyang family, or young master Ouyang Choping of the Ouyang family, they were all stunned by what they had just seen. Just now, they had seen with their own eyes, the three people beside the Chu king, Xiang Xiong, had carried the Cloud Condor and Shao Jianqing out of the courtyard, leaving behind a trail of blood. On March 31, 1229 of the Ziyun era, a youth named Zhou Donghuang killed the fourth elder of the imperial court of the country of Yunyang, the commander of the imperial guard of the country of Yunyang, and a great consummation adept, Shao Jianqing, at Chuxiu Inn. He also killed the petty consummation flying demon of the country of Yunyang, the Cloud Condor. When this news spread from the tycoon Ouyang family and the Lu family, the entire Chu royal city was shaken. That youth is actually so terrifying? Even that Shao Jianqing died at his hands. Can the imperial court of Yunyang deal with him? What kind of divine being is he? At such a young age, he already seems to have the power to take on an entire country. Chapter 124. Originally, most people in the Chu royal city had thought that the youth named Zhou Donghuang might not be as strong as the two petty consummation golden-crowned eagles, and that he could tame them because he had other tricks up his sleeve. But this time, Shao Jianqing from the Yunyang imperial court had died in the Chu royal city, and this made the people of the Chu royal city realize one thing: the youth's ability was above that of the two golden-crowned eagles. After all, Shao Jianqing from the Yunyang imperial court could not be killed even by the two golden-crowned eagles. In this battle, the youth had proven his ability. Of course, Although the news of the youth killing Xiao Jianqing had spread like wildfire in the Chu royal city, few people knew that Xiao Jianqing had been killed by a single blow from the youth. Killing with a single blow and killing with a lot of effort were two completely different concepts. How is this possible? How could that little bastard have such great ability? When the patriarch of the Grand Yang family, Yang Yuanji, heard that Zhou Donghuang had killed Xiao Jianqing, he felt like he had fallen from heaven to hell, and he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. When the patriarch of the tycoon Tang family, Tang Liuyan, received the news, he heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time, his face was full of shock. Looks like I worried for nothing. I never thought that young Master Donghuang would have such ability. No wonder he ignored me when I sent Mistress Ren to warn him, so he is not afraid of the imperial court at all. This time, he has killed the petty consummation flying demon of the imperial court of Yunyang, the Cloud Condor, so he basically has nothing to worry about in front of the imperial court of Yunyang. Unless, the Khanate stage adept in the imperial court is skilled with the bow. After all, even if the imperial court has a Khanate stage adept, it would at most be an average Khanate stage adept. If that person is not skilled with the bow, he would not be able to do anything to young Master Donghuang. Therefore, even if the imperial court of Yunyang has a Khanate stage adept, they might not dare to act against young Master Donghuang. After all, young Master Donghuang could order the two golden-crowned eagles to go to the imperial palace and start a massacre while the Khanate stage adept of the imperial court attacked him. At this thought, Tang Liuyan was completely relieved. That young man was his savior, as well as the savior of the Tang clan. He naturally did not wish for anything to happen to him. The current situation was what he was happy to see. Now, the only thing to worry about is, the imperial court of Yunyang country may feel that they are unable to do anything to young Master Donghuang, and will promise benefits to the Khanate adepts of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Thinking of this, Tang Liuyan could not help but worry. In the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there are many Khanate adepts. There are even Khanate adepts who specialize in archery. Moreover, in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there is no lack of powerful Khanate stage adepts who could kill those two golden-crowned eagles even if they were not skilled with the bow. In addition, it is said that in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there is a flying demonic beast of the Khanate realm. The more Tang Liuyan thought, the more worried he became. Now, I can only hope that the imperial court of Yunyang country cares about their reputation and is unwilling to seek help from the elite from the Valley of the Medicine Masters just to deal with a youth. Tang Liuyan prayed silently. The Chu royal household. After returning from Chuxiu Inn, the Chu king, Xiang Xiong, gave the order to mobilize all the resources of the Chu royal household to gather all the rare herbs that the youth needed. After all, that youth had only given him 3 months. Your Highness, is there really no other way to deal with him? Ever since Xiang Xiong had returned from Chuxiu Inn, the face of the Chu royal consort, Fan Ji, had been filled with indignation. She had originally thought that the imperial court of Yunyang country would send someone to avenge her family, the Fan family, who had been exterminated. She had not expected that even the elite from the imperial court would die at the hands of that youth. Your Highness. Xiang Xiong sighed. That youth is not someone that the Chu royal household can deal with. Even if the imperial court sends someone else, the Chu royal household cannot get involved in this mess. Now, Xiang Xiong was truly afraid. That youth, although not a Khanate stage adept, gave him the feeling that he was even more frightening than the average Khanate stage adept. At least, the small metal ball in the youth's hand that could transform into a sword was something that he could not understand. If I am not wrong, that small metal ball is definitely a treasure left behind by a powerful practitioner of the primal core stage. Even a Khanate stage adept might not be able to withstand a treasure left behind by a powerful practitioner of the primal core stage, right? However, although Xiang Xiong did not want to get involved in this mess, he still sent someone to the imperial city as quickly as possible to report the death of Xiao Jianqing and the Cloud Eagle to the imperial court of Yunyang country. This news had already spread, and if the Chu royal household did not report it, the imperial court would definitely not let the Chu royal household off lightly. On the 6th day of June 1229 of the Ziyun era, the person sent by the Chu royal household to the imperial city finally arrived and immediately went to the imperial palace to report the death of Xiao Jiancheng and the Cloud Eagle to the imperial court of Yunyang country. Immediately, in the throne room, the senior officials of the Jiang family, led by the emperor of Yunyang country and the patriarch of the Jiang family, Jiang Tianchen, gathered once again. I have just received news from the Chu royal household. Commander Xiao and the Cloud Eagle have both fallen at the hands of that youth called Zhou Donghuang. Jiang Tianchen was dressed in a golden dragon robe as he sat on the throne and looked at the senior officials of the imperial court with a gloomy expression as he spoke. Before this moment, in the entire imperial court of Yunyang country, only Jiang Tianchen knew about this matter. Therefore, when he recounted the matter, the senior officials of the imperial court were once again shocked. How is this possible? Although Commander Zhao's ability is not the strongest among the great consummation adepts of the Qi gathering in the imperial court, with his strong defense, few great consummation adepts have the ability to kill him. Someone shook his head, unwilling to believe this fact. How could the Cloud Eagle die? It is a flying demon, and if it joined forces with Commander Xiao, it would have been a piece of cake to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles of the western ridge of the Chu king. Someone doubted this. Unless that youth is a Khanate stage adept, and one who is skilled with the bow, otherwise, how could he have killed Commander Xiao and the Cloud Eagle? A youth, a Khanate stage adept? Impossible. Even if he had obtained an opportunity left behind by a primal core adept, it is impossible for him to attain the Khanate stage at such a young age. Your Majesty, I would like to know the details of what happened. As the throne room became noisy, Jiang Tianchen relayed the message of the Chu royal family's representative to the senior members of the imperial court. He killed the Cloud Eagle more than 10 meters in the air with one blow from the ground. A metal ball transformed into a sword and shot directly into the air, killing the Cloud Eagle before it could react. The speed of that sword was so fast that even Commander Xiao, who was unprepared, could not react in time. He used what seems to be a first-grade swiftness technique and easily dodged Commander Zhao's sneak attack. Moreover, as he rose into the air, he killed Commander Xiao with one blow, completely ignoring Commander Zhao's well-trained defense. After hearing what Jiang Tianchen said, the senior officials of the imperial court were all dumbfounded. Although this sounded a little shocking, they knew in their hearts that the people of the Chu royal family would not dare to lie to the royal family. This youth. I'm afraid that only the retired emperor can kill him personally. An old man with a goatee said with a fearful expression, moreover, it is only a possibility. After all, the metal ball in his hand is too strange, and it is obviously a treasure left behind by a primal core adept. Even if the retired emperor can kill that youth, what about the 2 golden-crowned eagles with him? The retired emperor has only attained the Khanate stage less than 10 years ago, and he is not skilled with the bow. Without the Cloud Eagle, it will be very difficult for him to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles. If the 2 golden-crowned eagles seek revenge on the imperial court, how will the imperial court defend against them? Another old man expressed his concerns. Second elder, your worries are unnecessary. If the retired emperor can kill that youth and take the metal ball from him, wouldn't it be difficult to kill the 2 golden-crowned eagles? A middle-aged man said. Indeed. Another person agreed. In my mind, I have 2 plans. Jiang Tianchen waved his hand, and after the senior officials of the imperial court had quieted down, he said in a low voice, the first plan is for father to kill that youth. However, as the great elder has said, even if imperial father takes action, he might not be able to kill that youth. That youth relied on the mysterious metal ball to transform into a sword, and since he was able to ignore Commander Zhao's defense and kill him, that means that his attack is no weaker than an ordinary Khanate stage adept's. If father were to act, there would be a certain risk. At this point, Jiang Tianchen paused for a moment before continuing. The second plan is to report this matter to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The the Valley of the Medicine Masters will definitely be interested in the opportunity left behind by the primal core adept that the youth obtained. Based on the metal ball in the youth's hand, we can further confirm that he must have obtained a treasure left behind by a primal core adept. Otherwise, he would not be able to possess such a treasure. However, once this matter is reported to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it also means that the treasure left behind by the primal core adept will be lost to the Imperial Court of Yunyang. The first plan is a little risky, but if it succeeds, we will be able to obtain the treasure left behind by a primal core adept. Even if we cannot obtain anything else, at least we will be able to obtain that metal ball. Chapter 125. The Chu Royal City. Chuxiu Inn. In the largest master bedroom in the second courtyard, a young man dressed in white sat cross-legged on the bed, his eyes closed as he practiced. Bursts of spiritual qi entered his body from the air at an extremely fast speed and circulated in his body again and again, as if it would never stop. This way of the Lord of the Four Supremes is part of the qi gathering stage. Apart from the fact that it allows one to cultivate extremely quickly in a calm and focused state, there isn't much else that's special about it. However, even the best techniques in the universe, such as the Thousand-Star Sword Technique, the Fiery Thunder Training Regimen, and the Manual of Unruffled Sage, are about the same. The Qi gathering stage is only the entry stage of martial arts. No matter how good a technique is, it won't be able to come up with anything new. It's basically the same. The Lord of the Four Supremes has the advantage of being able to practice quickly, which is already very rare. At least in this aspect, it already surpasses the best techniques in the universe, such as the Thousand-Star Sword Technique and the Fiery Thunder Training Regimen. Now, Zhou Donghuang was already trying to break through the final bottleneck of petty consummation of the Qi gathering. As long as he successfully broke through, he would be able to attain great consummation of the Qi gathering and become a great consummation adept with the strength of 9 oxen and 2 tigers. To him, breaking through the final bottleneck of petty consummation of the Qi gathering was not difficult at all, it was just a matter of time. In fact, he could even break through this bottleneck in the shortest time possible. The 1,000 years of practice experience from his previous life allowed Zhou Donghuang to practice like a fish in water in this life. Coupled with the various medicines from his previous life, his progress in practice was ridiculously fast, and he was not much slower than the young prodigies of the great galactic clans and supreme sects in the boundless universe. Of course, the reason why he was still slower than those young prodigies was that those young prodigies had all sorts of elixirs specially made for them by the alchemists of the great galactic clans and supreme sects to assist in their practice. Those elixirs were far superior to the Qi gathering elixirs and Qi gathering elixirs that Zhou Donghuang was currently using. It was not that Zhou Donghuang could not refine those elixirs and medicines, but the current him could not find those herbs that were considered rare in the entire universe. Secondly, he had not entered the primal core stage yet, so he could not use the Samadhi fire to refine elixirs. Although their current cultivation speed can't compare to the prodigies of the major clans and supreme sects in the star domain, they've only won at the starting line. Once I leave the planet of Ziyun and reach the bustling galaxy, with my 1,000 years of training experience, coupled with my memories of all the hidden treasures that have yet to be discovered, I will soon be able to catch up to them, and even surpass them. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had often heard stories about the treasures that had recently appeared and who would eventually obtain them. Although he had no fate with the various treasures and the secret treasures in his previous life, in this life, he could completely collect those treasures in advance. With the identity of a space-time traveler, he could plunder the resources that should have belonged to those who came later. To him, the memories of his past life were his greatest asset in this life. It allowed him to be a step ahead of others in many matters, allowing him to seize the initiative. In 4 hours at most, I will definitely attain great consummation of the Qi gathering before the sky turns dark. Zhou Donghuang calmed himself down again and continued to break through the final bottleneck of petty consummation of the Qi gathering. The spirit in the air quickly entered his body and transformed into Qi, helping him break through the bottleneck again and again. 4 hours later, Zhou Donghuang finally broke through the bottleneck. I've broken through. As his level of practice reached great consummation of the qi gathering and the qi in his body began to change, Zhou Donghuang opened his eyes and at the same time, casually punching the air in front of him. It seemed simple, but there was a hidden meaning behind it. In that instant, a sonic boom sounded. This was also the sign of a force of 10,000 kilograms breaking through the air. Before today, I needed to use the extreme strength of my muscles and the qi in my body to create a sonic boom, but now that my level of practice has reached great consummation of the qi gathering, I can create a sonic boom with just my qi. Now that his level of practice had reached great consummation of the qi gathering, it meant that Duanling Tian's ability had improved by leaps and bounds. Now, I can start formulating the elixirs and elixirs I need. After reaching great consummation, Zhou Donghuang did not continue practicing. He got off the bed and walked towards the pile of herbs that had been prepared in the corner of the room. Beside the herbs, there were the tools needed to formulate the elixirs and elixirs. 10 days ago, the Chu royal household had already gathered all the herbs he needed and delivered them to his doorstep, half a month ahead of the time he had requested. When the herbs from the Chu royal family had arrived, Zhou Donghuang had asked Fu to buy the other herbs that could be bought in the Chu royal city. In other words, these herbs had already been prepared 10 days ago, just waiting for him to reach great consummation of the qi gathering so that he could use them to formulate the elixirs and elixirs he needed. First, the qi consolidating elixir. The qi consolidating elixir was one of the elixirs that Zhou Donghuang had prepared to formulate. This elixir could help him stabilize his qi in preparation for breaking through to the Khanate stage. Next is the qi condensation elixir. After formulating the qi consolidating elixir, Zhou Donghuang continued to formulate another elixir, the qi condensation elixir. The qi condensation elixir could help him consolidate his qi and make it purer. Under such circumstances, it would be more effective for him to break through to the Khanate stage. With the qi consolidating elixir and the qi condensation elixir, I am confident that I can break through to the Khanate stage within a year. After mixing the qi consolidating elixir and the qi condensation elixir, Zhou Donghuang's eyes shone brightly like 2 stars in the night sky. Creak, although he had formulated the elixir and the qi condensation elixir, Zhou Donghuang was not in a hurry to continue practicing. Instead, he walked out of the room to get some fresh air. Practice was not something that could be achieved in a day. Striking a balance between work and rest was the way to go. This was also the experience that he had gained from 1,000 years in his previous life. The imperial court of Yunyang still hasn't made a move. Sitting at the stone table, drinking the tea that a servant had just brewed, Zhou Donghuang was slightly surprised. However, it was precisely because of this that he had a higher opinion of the Emperor of Yunyang. Based on the current situation, the Emperor was not a reckless person. Otherwise, the imperial court of Yunyang would have come looking for trouble. Big brother. Not long after Zhou Donghuang came out, Yunlu ran into the courtyard, obviously knowing that Zhou Donghuang had left his room. After Yunlu rushed in, she threw herself into Zhou Donghuang's arms and said coquettishly, "Stinky brother, you've been busy practicing recently, I haven't seen you in a long time. Today, you have to accompany me for a good chat." Ever since Zhou Donghuang had avenged Yunlu's family, the originally adult-like Yunlu had completely regained her childlike nature. However, Zhou Donghuang was happy to see Yunlu's current naivety. The Yunlu of the past had made his heart ache. Xiao Lu. Looking at Yunlu, thinking that unless she entered the primordial soul stage and possessed someone else's body, she would remain a child for the rest of her life, Zhou Donghuang could not help but feel a pang of pain in his heart. In the future, Big Brother will definitely help you find a way to grow your body. The Yunlu of now was no different from the Yunlu he had first met. The little girl seemed to have frozen her age. And this was also the side effect of being administered the divine needle of tendon changing and marrow cleansing before she had even begun to develop. If nothing unexpected happened, she would remain in her current state for the rest of her life, permanently frozen. Hee hee. Silly Big Brother, I think this is also very good. Yunlu giggled and said, in this case, Xiaolu can jump into Big Brother's arms at any time and let Big Brother hug me. Otherwise, when Xiaolu grows up, if I still want Big Brother to hug me, sister-in-law will definitely be jealous. You are so mischievous. Zhou Donghuang rolled his eyes at the little girl in his arms and said impatiently. Big Brother, do you really have someone in your heart? Yunlu asked curiously, her big, watery eyes turning. Why are you asking this? Zhou Donghuang was somewhat speechless. I just want to confirm, if you are lying to mother when you say you have someone in your heart, I really think Sister Zishi is not bad. Of course, Sister Jiapei is also not bad, but I think Sister Jiapei is not too willing to compete with Sister Zishi. Yunlu paused and shook her head. I really don't know what she is thinking. If I were her and fell in love with Big Brother, I would definitely not have so many reservations and directly confess to Big Brother. Xiaolu, looks like Big Brother and Mother do not have to worry about your future marriage. After all, our Xiaolu is so bold, there is no need to worry about not being able to get married. Zhou Donghuang shook his head with a smile. Hee, for Xiaolu to confess to someone, he has to be at least half as good as Big Brother. But Xiaolu feels that in this world, there is definitely no one who can be half as good as Big Brother. So Xiaolu should just stay by Big Brother and Mother's side. Yunlu giggled. Just as Yunlu finished speaking, the smile on Zhou Donghuang's face froze, and his gaze fell on the outside of the courtyard. There stood an old man in a grey robe. The grey-robed old man had a tall and burly figure. His white hair was tied up and draped over his back. His sword-like eyebrows stood erect, and his eyes were incomparably deep like bottomless pits. He had a goatee on his chin, and he looked kind and benevolent, but his body imperceptibly revealed a peerlessly sharp aura. Khanate. With just one look, Zhou Donghuang was almost 100% sure that this old man was a Khanate adept. If he was not a Khanate adept, with his current level of practice, he would not have sensed him only moments after he had appeared outside the courtyard. Someone from the imperial court of Yunyang country? After confirming that the old man was a Khanate adept, Zhou Donghuang could vaguely guess his background. He was most likely a Khanate adept from the imperial court of Yunyang country. Chapter 126. Young friend, you are very observant. Seeing that he had only appeared for a short while, the young man in the courtyard had already noticed him. The old man cupped his hands at the young man politely and smiled. I wonder, if it is convenient for me to come in and have some tea with you? Not at all. Zhou Donghuang glanced at the old man and rejected him bluntly. Young friend, don't you think it is impolite to reject someone like this? The old man had not expected the young man to reject him. He was stunned for a moment, then frowned. So what if it is impolite? I, Zhou Donghuang, do what I want. What does your opinion have to do with me? Zhou Donghuang said nonchalantly. I am from the imperial court of Yunyang country. The old man's frown deepened, and he could not help but remind Zhou Donghuang in a low voice. I've guessed it. Zhou Donghuang said calmly, looking at you, you don't look like you are here to fight or kill. If you have something to say, then you can leave. After saying this, Zhou Donghuang became a little impatient. Sir, in the country of Yunyang, you are the first person who dares to speak to me like this. The old man's face darkened slightly, and his benevolent expression disappeared. His eyes shone sharply as he stared at Zhou Donghuang, and his robes fluttered. Also, on the surface of his skin, there was a faint green glow. He did not make a move, but the qi in his body vibrated, and the qi was involuntarily released from his body. This was a sign of a Khanate stage adept. Obviously, the old man had done this on purpose, to intimidate the young man in the courtyard. What? You still want to spar with me? The young man held the little girl in his left hand, and as he opened his right hand, a small metal ball rolled out from his sleeve into his palm. He played with it casually, and his gaze fell on the old man, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. Seeing the small metal ball appear in the young man's hand, he could deeply feel the young man's confidence. In the depths of the old man's eyes, there was an imperceptible flash of fear. In the blink of an eye, the glow of qi around the old man's body disappeared. "Sir, I am the previous emperor of Yunyang country, the current emperor, Jiang Yunding." After calming the restless qi in his body, the old man looked at the youth. When he spoke again, not only did he introduce himself, but his tone was also much more gentle. "This time, I am here on behalf of the imperial court of Yunyang country to discuss a deal with you." Just as Jiang Yunding finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang replied without hesitation, "Not interested." "Sir, I think you should listen to what I'm about to say next before replying to me." Jiang Yunding took a deep breath, trying hard to suppress the rising anger in his heart. Without waiting for Zhou Donghuang to speak again, he quickly said, "If the imperial court of Yunyang did not guess wrongly, you must have obtained an opportunity left behind by a mighty practitioner of the primal core stage. That is how you managed to achieve your current level of practice in such a short period of time, as well as this small metal ball that can transform into a sword and unleash an attack no weaker than that of a Khanate adept." As he spoke, Jiang Yunding's gaze fell on the sword sphere in Zhou Donghuang's right hand. Of course, he did not know that this was a sword sphere. "So what?" Zhou Donghuang's tone was calm, without any hint of emotion. "Sir, perhaps you do not fear the imperial court of Yunyang country, but, what about the Valley of the Medicine Masters?" Jiang Yunding asked in a low voice. "The Valley of the Medicine Masters?" Zhou Donghuang's expression froze, and he fell into deep thought. In fact, he was thinking of Chen Dandan, the girl who had betrayed his mother, the girl who had grown up with him. In the beginning, the reason why he had not killed Chen Dandan was not only because of his mother's advice, but also because he wanted to settle his grudge with Chen Dandan in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. When Chen Dandan was at the top, he wanted her to regret everything she had done in the past. However, in Jiang Yunding's view, it was because the youth was afraid of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. "Sir, you only need to hand over to me the first-grade swiftness technique that you used to avoid Xiao Jianqing's sneak attack. The Imperial Court of Yunyang country will guarantee that you will not tell the Valley of the Medicine Masters that you have obtained an opportunity left behind by a mighty practitioner of the primal core stage." Jiang Yunding looked deeply at Zhou Donghuang as he spoke. "You want that first-grade technique?" Hearing Jiang Yunding's words, Zhou Donghuang smiled and narrowed his eyes. "And if I don't hand it over?" "If you don't hand it over, the Imperial Court of Yunyang country can only tell the Valley of the Medicine Masters that you have obtained an opportunity left behind by a mighty practitioner of the primal core stage." When Jiang Yunding spoke again, his tone had become colder. "I think, if the Valley of the Medicine Masters were to gain something from you, and in consideration of the fact that the Imperial Court of Yunyang country has provided them with information, they would still be willing to give us a first-grade technique. Are you threatening me?" Zhou Donghuang's narrowed eyes did not open, but they flashed coldly, and a smile appeared on his face, one that was exceptionally bright. "You can understand it that way, sir." Jiang Yunding smiled. "Do you know?" Zhou Donghuang's narrowed eyes suddenly opened, and the smile on his face completely froze. "What I, Zhou Donghuang, hate the most is being threatened." Just as he finished speaking, the small metal ball in Zhou Donghuang's right hand instantly transformed into a sword. At the same time, Jiang Yunding, whose gaze had never left the small metal ball in Zhou Donghuang's hand, could not help but narrow his eyes as he saw the small metal ball transform into a small metal sword surrounded by a cold light, and he quickly reached out to his waist. Swoosh! Jiang Yunding pulled out a flexible sword from his waist belt. Following the injection of the true qi in his body, the flexible sword instantly straightened. Moreover, the body of the sword flickered with a green halo. This was the true qi that Jiang Yunding had released. Now, not only the sword, but even Jiang Yunding's body was faintly glowing with a green glow. Just as Jiang Yunding drew the soft sword and prepared himself, his entire attention was focused on the small metal sword floating in Zhou Donghuang's right hand, his face full of caution. Early Khanate stage? Zhou Donghuang's voice, full of disdain, rang out. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang's right hand flung out the small metal sword as if he was throwing away rubbish. Swoosh! As the small metal sword flew out, the sound of a sword whistling rang out. Humph! Jiang Yunding snorted coldly, and as Zhou Donghuang flung out his hand, the sword in his hand shook, and as fast as lightning, it met the menacing small metal sword. However, when he swung his sword, he discovered that the speed of the small metal sword was not something he could block at all. As a result, his sword directly missed its target. No, as the sword missed, Jiang Yunding's eyes narrowed, and he let out a cry of discontent. Swoosh! At the same time that Jiang Yunding let out a cry, before he could even close his mouth, the small iron sword with a cold light around it had already pierced through his chest, bringing with it a pool of hot blood. Then, without a single drop of blood, it circled in the air and transformed back into a sword pill, returning to the youth's hand. Thump! As the sword sphere returned to Zhou Donghuang's hand, Jiang Yunding's body fell to the ground, his mouth open and eyes wide, completely lifeless. Jiang Yunding, the previous emperor of the country of Yunyang, the current emperor, and the only Khanate stage adept in the country of Yunyang, had fallen just like that outside the courtyard of the No. 2 guest room of the Chuxiu Inn in the Chu royal city. Big brother, why is this old man's body glowing? Having seen Zhou Donghuang kill Jiang Yunding, Yun Lu, who was sitting on Zhou Donghuang's lap and leaning against his chest, was not only not frightened, but even asked Zhou Donghuang curiously. That's the release of qi from a Khanate stage adept. Zhou Donghuang kept the sword sphere, gently stroking Yun Lu's little head as he smiled. Khanate stage adept? Yun Lu's eyes widened. That's a Khanate stage adept? Aren't Khanate stage adepts supposed to be very powerful? How did he die in the blink of an eye at your hands, big brother? That's because big brother is more powerful than him. Zhou Donghuang laughed. The emperor is dead? When the news reached the Chu royal household, the Chu king, Xiang Xiong's expression changed, and his eyes revealed a look of lingering fear. Luckily I did not go with him this time. The emperor is a Khanate stage adept, but he died at the hands of that youth. That youth indeed has the ability to fight an entire country alone. This time, the emperor of the imperial court of Yunyang, Jiang Yunding, had come to the Chu royal household as soon as he arrived at the Chu royal city of the western ridge of the Chu king. He had confirmed many things with the Chu king, Xiang Xiong. Then, he left the Chu royal household and headed straight for Chuxiu Inn. Although Xiang Xiong did not follow him, he had sent someone to follow him, so when Jiang Yunding fell, he was the first to receive the news. Send the news back to the imperial court. Xiang Xiong sighed as he instructed someone to send the news of Jiang Yunding's death to the imperial court of Yunyang. The death of the emperor will definitely infuriate the imperial court, and that youth has a treasure on him. This time, the imperial court will definitely not dare to mention that the youth has a treasure left behind by a primal core adept, Xiang Xiong thought to himself. Xiang Xiong thought to himself, however, although the royal family would not dare to mention the miraculous encounter left behind by the primal core adept on this young man, they would definitely leak this news to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. There are as many Khanate stage adepts as there are clouds in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, and there is no lack of mid-Khanate stage adepts. It is said that the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters is a late Khanate stage adept. If the Valley of the Medicine Masters were to act, would that young man be able to withstand it? Xiang Xiong's eyes flickered with curiosity. However, even though he was curious, he was determined that the Chu royal family could not afford to provoke that young man again, regardless of whether the people of the Valley of the Medicine Masters could deal with him. Last time, he was really afraid. He had a strong intuition. If he dared to meddle in the affairs of others against the youth would never let him off. Chapter 127. Chuxiu Inn. In the courtyard of guest house number 2. Young master, was the old man you killed just now really a Khanate stage adept? The golden-crowned eagle Little Gold circled in the air above the courtyard, looking at the young man chatting happily with the little girl at the stone table. Its sharp eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. If you ask again, I'll break your wings so that you won't be able to fly for 2 months, do you believe me? Zhou Donghuang said impatiently as he glanced at Little Gold. Just now, after he had killed the emperor of the imperial court of Yunyang, the early Khanate stage adept, Jiang Yunding, Little Gold had sensed the commotion and rushed over immediately. It had even witnessed the people of Chuxiu in dealing with Jiang Yunding's body. However, when Little Gold found out that it was a Khanate stage adept, it obviously did not believe it and asked a few more times. Faced with Zhou Donghuang's threat, Little Gold immediately shut its mouth. If you have the time to doubt me, you might as well focus on your practice. With the qi-gathering elixir and the techniques I taught you, you still haven't broken through, how useless. Seeing that Little Gold was still circling in the air above the courtyard with no intention of leaving, Zhou Donghuang could not help but glare at it. Your big brother has already attained great consummation of the qi-gathering a month ago. I'm really worried that by the time he attains the Khanate stage and becomes a Khanate stage demon, you won't even have great consummation of the qi-gathering. Zhou Donghuang continued. Young master, big brother's level of practice is higher than mine, and with the qi-gathering elixir and the techniques you gave him, it's normal that he broke through before me, Little Gold said with some grievance. I've already improved a lot in this period of time, and I've already reached the bottleneck of petty consummation of the qi-gathering. It won't be long before I break through. Young master, I'll go get my big brother. Since you can even kill a Khanate stage adept, you should be able to kill a Khanate stage demon too. Little Gold said this absent-mindedly before returning to the backyard of guest house number 3. After a while, Little Gold returned. Following it back was a golden-crowned eagle that was a full size larger than it. This golden-crowned eagle was not only taller than Little Gold when standing, it was also wider when it spread its wings. The golden crown on its head was like a burning golden flame. And this was the golden-crowned eagle that had broken through to great consummation of the qi-gathering a month ago, Big Gold. Young master, Little Gold said, you just killed a Khanate adept? Big Gold had been focused on practicing and did not notice Zhou Donghuang's attack. It was only when Little Gold went to look for him and told him about it that he realized. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded. Young master, Little Gold and I are not demonic beasts from the lost forest. Big Gold's eyes flashed as he said directly, we were born in the mountains on the northern border of Yunyang country. That area is no longer within the borders of Yunyang country. I remember that one day, out of curiosity, Little Gold and I went up to a cliff in the north that was high above the clouds. We discovered that there was a faint golden light shrouding the cliff. Out of curiosity, we climbed up the cliff. The moment we climbed up the cliff and were enveloped by the faint golden light from the cliff, Little Gold and I both awakened our intelligence. Then, we felt a terrifying aura coming from a cave on the precipice. That aura was the aura of a flying demonic beast that was much stronger than us. It scared us so much that we hurriedly fled. As we fled from the area enveloped by the golden glow, we looked back and saw a giant brown eagle with a wingspan of more than 10 meters glaring angrily at us and telling us to scram in demon language. Only after attaining the Khanate stage and becoming a Khanate stage demon can our bodies grow to that extent. At this point, Big Gold paused for a moment before continuing. Later on, Little Gold and I were deeply afraid that the giant brown eagle would cause trouble for us, so we left that area and came to the Lost Forest. By stealing the qi-gathering elixirs of human adepts, we slowly became the overlords of the Lost Forest. When we left that place, we did some research. That giant brown eagle was only a red goshawk with the lowest cultivation talent among eagle-type demonic beasts. Under normal circumstances, red goshawks can only reach level 5 of qi-gathering in their entire lives. But that red goshawk had attained the Khanate stage and become a Khanate stage demon. So, both Little Gold and I suspect that it discovered that treasure land, and through its need for the golden light from that treasure land, it went against the flow and grew to that stage. Little Gold and I clearly remember, at that time, we were enveloped by the golden glow, and we only stayed there for a short while before we awakened our intelligence and increased our level of practice significantly. At this point, Big Gold looked at Zhou Donghuang with a burning gaze. Young Master, Little Gold and I had originally planned to wait until we attained the Khanate stage and became Khanate stage demons before we could join forces to deal with that red goshawk and obtain that treasured land. But to attain the Khanate stage, even with the chi-gathering elixir and practice techniques that Young Master had given us, it would still take a long time. By that time, that red goshawk would have grown to an unimaginable level with the help of that treasured land. And today, Little Gold said, that you killed that Khanate stage adept before he could even enter the door. Obviously, Young Master, with the power of that sword sphere, you are more powerful than an ordinary Khanate stage adept. So, we wanted to bring Young Master to that treasured land to see if we could deal with that red goshawk. If we could not, then we could come back in the future. If we could kill it, we could take that treasured land for ourselves. As he spoke, Big Gold's eyes shone brightly, as if he could not wait to rush to that place and kill that Khanate stage red goshawk, so that he could take the treasured land that was enveloped by the mysterious golden glow. That red goshawk is of a lowly bloodline among eagle demons, and in terms of practice, it is not even 1/10 of us golden-crowned eagles, but with that treasured land, it still managed to become a Khanate stage demon. Little Gold's eyes shone with passion as well. If we could take that treasured land for ourselves, the benefits we would gain would definitely be much greater than that of it. Hearing Big Gold and Little Gold's words, Zhou Donghuang hugged Yunlu and fell into deep thought. Although Yunlu did not know that her brother was chatting with the two golden-crowned eagles, nor did she know what they were talking about, she could tell that her brother was deep in thought, and she sensibly quietened down. After a moment's thought, Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed. Steep cliffs? Enveloped by the golden glow? Previously, when you were at that place and were enveloped by the golden glow, did you hear Sanskrit chanting? Zhou Donghuang looked at Big Gold and Little Gold and asked directly. Sanskrit chanting? Faced with Zhou Donghuang's question, Big Gold and Little Gold looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. They had no idea what Sanskrit chanting their young master was talking about. Just tell me, at that time, did you hear anything? Seeing the confusion on their faces, Zhou Donghuang continued to ask. Sound? Big Gold and Little Gold's eyes flashed, and then they quieted down, immersed in their memories. After a moment, Big Gold was the first to recover, and its eyes shone as it looked at Zhou Donghuang. Young Master, now that you mention it, I remember, before I became sentient, I seem to have heard some sounds. That sound, although I did not understand what it was saying, it seemed to be able to penetrate into the depths of my soul and cleanse my soul. That is indeed the case. Little Gold also regained its senses and agreed. Obviously, it remembered it as well. Looks like I guessed correctly. Although Zhou Donghuang's tone was calm, his eyes suddenly lit up, and there was a look of excitement in them. Young Master, you know the secret of that treasured land? Hearing the youth's words, both Big Gold and Little Gold's eyes lit up. That should be the place where a monk of the primal core stage passed away, Zhou Donghuang said casually. After he passed away, he would leave behind a Buddhist essence. The golden light you are talking about is the light of Buddha emitted by the Buddhist essence after he passed away. The Buddhist essence left behind by a monk of the primal core stage and above will emit a light of Buddha, and it will indeed allow you to develop sentience before you reach the Khanate stage, and it will also help you increase your level of practice. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had traversed the universe and had seen many things. After hearing what Big Gold and Little Gold said, he guessed that the treasured land they were talking about was the place where a monk had passed away. A monk? This was the first time Big Gold and Little Gold had heard of a monk. Young Master, I know that there are martial adepts among humans, but what is a monk? Young Master, what is the difference between a monk and a martial adept? The two golden-crowned eagles expressed their doubts. A monk is actually also a martial adept, but because their direction of practice is different from the orthodox martial way and more towards the Buddhist way, they are called monk. After the Khanate stage, martial adepts cultivate the primal core, while for a monk, after the Khanate stage, they cultivate the essence. As for you demons, after the Khanate stage, you cultivate the inner core. As he finished speaking, Zhou Donghuang had already stood up with Yun Lu in his arms. He put Yun Lu down and smiled. Xiao Lu, Big Brother is going out with Big Gold and Little Gold. If Mother and Sister Zishi ask, tell them. Big Brother will be back as soon as possible. After patting Yun Lu's head, Zhou Donghuang called out to Big Gold and leaped onto its back. In an instant, Big Gold carried them high up into the clouds and disappeared from Yun Lu's sight. Whoosh! Little Gold followed closely. At this moment, both Big Gold and Little Gold's eyes were filled with excitement. After all, they had coveted that treasured land for a long time, but they had not been able to get their hands on it. Stupid brother, you didn't even bring Xiao Lu along when you went out to play. The little girl looked up at the sky and saw Little Gold's figure disappear into the clouds. She then lowered her head unhappily. Chapter 128. The western ridge of the Chu King was in the northwest of the country of Yunyang. It was precisely because the western ridge of the Chu King was so close to the barren mountains and forests on the northern border of the country of Yunyang that Big Gold and Little Gold had come to the western ridge of the Chu King and settled down in the Lost Forest in the central ridge. The distance from the Chu royal city to the capital of Yunyang was about the same as the distance from the Chu royal city to Big Gold and Little Gold's hometown. However, even though the distance was about the same, it was much further than the distance from the Chu royal city to the inferior Yunfeng prefecture. Little Gold, you are too slow. If Big Gold did not take care of you, we could save at least 2 or 3 days from the Chu royal city to your hometown. Zhou Donghuang sat cross-legged on Big Gold's back as he glanced at Little Gold, who was flying alongside Big Gold. His tone was full of disdain. From the time they had left the Chu royal city to the time Big Gold had brought them out of the northern border of the country of Yunyang and into this barren mountain range, it had already been 10 days. After Big Gold had attained great consummation of the Qi gathering, not only had his Qi become stronger, but his body had also evolved. Even without using Qi to fly, he was much faster than before. If not for the fact that Big Gold had to take care of Little Gold, who was still a petty consummation demon, he could have reached this place at least 2 or 3 days earlier. Young master, give me 2 more months, I will definitely attain great consummation of the Qi gathering. Faced with the youth's disdain, Little Gold's eyes flashed as he spoke confidently. 2 months. Zhou Donghuang shook his head as his lips curled up in disdain. You are really promising. Young master, Little Gold said with a bitter smile. 2 months is already considered fast based on my current level of practice, although my talent is not as good as yours, compared to Big Brother's, it is not that far off. Of course, if we can successfully kill or chase away that Khanate demon Red Goshawk and obtain that treasured land, perhaps in less than a month, I will be able to attain great consummation of the Qi gathering. Towards the end, Little Gold's eyes flashed with yearning. Are we almost there? Hearing Little Gold mention that place again, Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed as he stared ahead and asked calmly. Of course, Zhou Donghuang looked calm on the outside, but he could not help but feel a ripple in his heart. If it was him in his previous life, when he stood at the pinnacle of all the races in the universe, a mere Buddhist cultivator's resting place would not be attractive to him at all. Even if he passed by, he would not even bother to enter and take a look. Buddhist cultivators who needed to find a place to pass away were at most at the Dharma laws stage. For Buddhist cultivators who were above the realm of nascent divinity, the sarira in their bodies had already transformed into nascent divinity. Even if their bodies would age, as long as their nascent divinity was not destroyed, they could abandon their current body at any time and find a new one. Therefore, there was no need for Buddhist cultivators of that level to find a place to pass away. Even if they felt pity and were unwilling to take over someone else's body, they didn't need to find a place to sit and die. Because after their bodies died of old age, their primordial spirits would vanish along with them. Soon. Big Gold replied, at our current speed, we will arrive there in a day and a night at most. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded, then closed his eyes and continued practicing. Sitting cross-legged on the golden-crowned eagle Big Gold's back, Zhou Donghuang was not affected much by the strong wind. After taking the spirit concentration elixir, he easily entered a state of practice without any distractions. Entering a state of practice without any distractions, he practiced the Lord of the Four Supremes and progressed rapidly. An afternoon passed. An evening passed. It was not until the next morning that Zhou Donghuang opened his eyes again and looked straight ahead. According to Big Gold, in another 4 to 6 hours, they would reach the resting place of the Buddhist cultivator that the Khanate demon Red Goshawk had occupied. When you first saw that Red Goshawk, it was only at the early Khanate stage? Although Little Gold had mentioned this before, Zhou Donghuang still asked again. Young Master, we Eagle-type demons, after attaining the Khanate stage and becoming a Khanate demon, our wingspan is more than 10 meters, this is the early Khanate stage. Once we attain the middle Khanate stage, our wingspan is more than 12 meters. Late Khanate stage, our wingspan is more than 15 meters. Ultimate Khanate stage, our wingspan is more than 20 meters. Big Gold patiently explained to Zhou Donghuang, and the last time we saw that Red Goshawk, its wingspan was not more than 10 meters, it should have just attained the Khanate stage and become a Khanate demon not long ago. Now, it has been almost 10 years since then. Big Gold continued, now, we are not sure what its level of practice is. It could still be at the early Khanate stage, or it could have already attained the middle Khanate stage, but it is only a lowly Red Goshawk among the Eagle-type demons. Even with that treasured land for it to practice, it could not possibly attain the late Khanate stage, much less the ultimate Khanate stage. Zhou Donghuang nodded. Although he had some understanding of demons in the past, it was only general knowledge, and he did not know much about the evolution of Eagle-type demons. Eagle-type demons were just one of the many flying demons. For example, the cloud condor from the imperial court of Yunyang, although its level of practice was similar to that of Big Gold and Little Gold, because it was a rock-type demon, it was naturally larger than an eagle-type demon. Of the same level of practice, rock-type demons and eagle-type demons, regardless of their level of practice, the former would always be larger than the latter. Young Master. Little Gold seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked, previously, you said that the treasured land that the Red Goshawk occupied was the place where a Buddhist monk passed away, the golden light that enveloped that place also originated from the Buddhist essence in his body. If that Red Goshawk had already swallowed the Buddhist essence, does that mean that the treasured land has disappeared? As he spoke, Little Gold's eyes revealed a hint of worry. As Little Gold spoke, Big Gold's eyes involuntarily narrowed, and he could not help but scold, Little Gold, you are a golden-crowned eagle, the king of all eagle-type demons. Don't learn from those stupid crows. Hearing Little Gold's words, Zhou Donghuang only smiled faintly. If it had really swallowed the Buddhist essence, it would actually be a good thing for us. Why? Little Gold did not understand. If it had swallowed the Buddhist essence, wouldn't the Buddhist essence have become part of its stomach? Without the Buddhist Sarira, that treasured land will turn back into an ordinary cliff. Zhou Donghuang shook his head. If it had wanted to swallow the Buddhist essence, it would have done so long ago. Would it have waited for you to discover that place? Furthermore, when it discovered that you were there, you did not see it leave with the Buddhist essence, did you? It only chased you out of that place. Even if the Buddhist essence was left behind by an early primal core adept, it is not something that it can swallow. The moment it swallows it, it will immediately explode from the power of the Buddhist essence. In fact, it may not even be able to get close to the Buddhist essence. Even if it is only a Buddhist essence left behind by an early primal core adept, any human or demon below the primal core stage will be severely injured if they do not use specific methods to absorb it and get close to it. The Buddhist essence contains the lifetime practice of a Buddhist adept. Furthermore, it is different from the primal core and inner core in that even after the Buddhist adept has passed away, the Buddhist essence can still absorb spirit energy from the heavens and the earth to replenish the power within it for a certain period of time. Only after that period of time has passed will the Buddhist essence completely dissipate along with the power within it. Zhou Donghuang had a certain understanding of the Buddhist essence. This was because in his previous life, he had a senior who was a Buddhist adept, and a Buddhist adept who had entered the separating divinity stage. He had heard many things about Buddhist adepts from his senior brother Qinghong. Thinking of his senior, Zhou Donghuang took a deep breath and tried hard to suppress the rising emotions in his heart. In his previous life, his senior brother had died at the hands of two celestial realm experts because of him. Although he had avenged his senior brother and killed those two people, his senior brother Qinghong had not been able to come back to life. Senior brother Qinghong was both a brother and a teacher to him, and he was one of the most respected people in his previous life. Since I have been reborn, in this life, I will not let senior brother Qinghong's tragedy happen again. Zhou Donghuang's gaze was resolute. Young master, are you really from a small place in Yunyang country? Why do I feel that you know more than anyone else? Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Little Gold heaved a sigh of relief and asked curiously. Although Big Gold did not ask, its sharp eyes shone with curiosity. Evidently, it was as curious as Little Gold. After living for a long time, I naturally know more. Zhou Donghuang muttered to himself, his eyes filled with the vicissitudes of life. Lived for a long time? Zhou Donghuang's words left Big Gold and Little Gold speechless. According to what they knew, this young master was only 17 or 18 years old, and he was saying that he had lived for a long time? If that was considered a long time, then wouldn't they have lived even longer? Young master, we've arrived. About 4 hours later, Big Gold's voice rang out, bringing Zhou Donghuang back from his wandering thoughts and to his senses. Just now, when he thought of his senior brother Qinghong, he could not help but recall many things from his previous life, causing his thoughts to wander. It's that mountain peak in front. As Little Gold spoke, Zhou Donghuang followed its gaze. What he saw was a steep mountain peak that pierced through the clouds like a sharp sword, standing out from all the other mountains. Go straight up. Zhou Donghuang said as he looked at the mountain peak. His tone was indifferent, without joy or sorrow. Chapter 129. If a Buddhist essence appeared in a place left behind by a Buddhist adept, it meant that the Buddhist adept was at least of the early primal core stage, or at most of the ultimate Dharma stage. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang, who had stood at the pinnacle of the universe, did not care about the place where a Buddhist essence was left behind. But now, Zhou Donghuang had no choice but to care. Because now, he was only a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering. If he could obtain the Buddhist essence of a Buddhist adept, then his future path would be even easier. He could enter the primal core stage even faster and possess the ability to cross galaxies with his physical body. He could leave the planet of Ziyun and head for a more prosperous planet in search of better resources for practice. He could reach the pinnacle that he had reached in his previous life, or even surpass it. Let's go straight up. Big Gold and Little Gold had originally wanted to ask Zhou Donghuang what their next step should be, but upon hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, their eyes lit up and they sped up towards the mountain peak. Not long after, Big Gold and Little Gold passed through the clouds and arrived near the mountain peak. The Buddhist essence is still here. After passing through the clouds, Zhou Donghuang could see the golden light emitting from the cliff face of the mountain peak. It was obvious that the Buddhist essence had not been taken away by anyone yet, and the power within it had not been depleted by the passage of time, causing it to turn to dust. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang heard what Little Gold had said to Big Gold. Big brother, the golden light on the cliff seems to be much less than before. I remember, back then, the golden light on the cliff could envelop this area. And back then, we stayed at this gap in the cliff and were bathed in the golden light, awakening our intelligence. Following Little Gold's gaze, Zhou Donghuang saw a gap in the cliff. It was not small and could even accommodate the current Big Gold. At the same time, it could accommodate Big Gold and Little Gold, who had still been of a lower level of practice, as well as the two eagles. Little Gold, are you sure, back then, the golden light could cover this area? Before Big Gold could speak, Zhou Donghuang could not help but ask Little Gold, his expression turning serious. Young master, I am certain. As Little Gold spoke, it flew towards the gap and left a deep claw mark on the mountain wall 3 meters below the gap. Back then, Big Brother and I awakened our spiritual intelligence here. Because of this, I have a very deep impression of this place. Back then, that golden light could envelop this place. Little Gold said with certainty. Following Little Gold's words, Big Gold said, Young master, I also have a deep impression. Little Gold is right. Back then, that golden light could indeed reach here. As Little Gold confirmed and Big Gold spoke, Zhou Donghuang nodded. Young master, is there something wrong? Big Gold asked curiously. From the position of the Buddhist essence, if its golden light could extend all the way here, it means that the monk who left the Buddhist essence behind was at least of the ultimate primal core stage. Zhou Donghuang looked at the peak of the mountain, at the golden light that shrouded the cliffs, and said bluntly, and now, that Buddhist essence has obviously passed the stage where it can automatically absorb spirit energy to replenish its energy. The energy within it can no longer be replenished by absorbing spirit energy, and when the energy within it is depleted, it will also turn to dust. Luckily, you brought me along this time. If you had all attained the Khanate stage and become Khanate demons, the Buddhist essence above would have most likely been depleted of its energy and turned to dust. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, both Big Gold and Little Gold had a look of fear in their eyes. After spending half a year together, they were completely convinced by this young man. Now that the young man had said this, not only did they not doubt him, they even believed him, and were glad that they had brought him along. Let's go. Let's go meet that Khanate demon Red Goshawk. As he spoke to Big Gold and Little Gold, Zhou Donghuang took out 3 small bottles of elixir, opened one of them, and poured the elixir into his mouth. He then gave the other 2 elixirs to Big Gold and Little Gold. Young master, what is this? Big Gold and Little Gold asked curiously. Qi increasing elixir, Zhou Donghuang said calmly. Zhou Donghuang said casually, after taking it, the qi in your body will be strengthened in a short period of time, and you will be able to increase your strength by about 500 kilograms. After the effects of the qi increasing elixir wear off, there will be no side effects. Now, the elixir that Zhou Donghuang had consumed and given to the 2 golden-crowned eagles was made from the gall-bladder of a level 9 demon grizzly bear. He had made a total of 10 bottles, but had never used them. But today, facing the Khanate demon Red Goshawk, whose ability was still unknown, he not only consumed a bottle of qi-increasing elixir for himself, but also gave each of the 2 golden-crowned eagles a bottle of qi-increasing elixir. Young master, please give me a few more bottles of such good stuff. Little Gold said, his eyes shining. Give you a few more bottles? Do you think it's cabbages? Zhou Donghuang glared at Little Gold and said exasperatedly, at the same time urging the 2 golden-crowned eagles, to be on the safe side, both of you consume the qi-increasing elixir first, then charge into the area enveloped by the golden light of the Buddhist essence. Hearing this, Big Gold and Little Gold immediately consumed the qi-increasing elixir. Feeling the qi in their bodies surge, Little Gold's eyes shone. The qi in my body feels no weaker than that of a demon with great consummation of the qi gathering. It's a pity that the increased qi will be gone after using it. As he spoke, Little Gold was obviously disappointed. Stop nagging, let's get down to business first. Big Gold said exasperatedly. With that, Big Gold moved like a bolt of black lightning, bringing Zhou Donghuang along as it flew towards the peak of the mountain, which was shrouded in golden light. "Big brother, wait for me." Little Gold called out and hurried to catch up. After a while, under Zhou Donghuang's guidance, Big Gold and Little Gold not only entered the area enveloped by the golden light of the mountain peak, but they also circled the mountain peak and finally appeared in front of a cave on the side of the cliff. It really is the Buddhist essence. Bathed in the golden light, Zhou Donghuang could further confirm that this golden light was the light of the Buddhist essence. As it enveloped his body, it made him feel as if his soul was being refined, and the qi in his body also began to stir. That red goshawk should be inside. Zhou Donghuang's ears twitched. With his amazing hearing after practicing the Lord of the Four Supremes, he could hear the low cry of an eagle coming from inside. Although he intentionally lowered the sound, as if he did not want them to hear, Zhou Donghuang could still faintly hear it. If it was before I attained great consummation of the qi gathering, I might not have been able to hear this sound. However, after attaining great consummation, my hearing has improved. Zhou Donghuang thought to himself. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang heard a soft sound coming from the depths of the cave, and he immediately realized that the red goshawk had come out. However, its movements were very subtle, and it was obvious that it did not want them to discover its presence. "Since you don't want us to know, then I'll beat you at your own game." Zhou Donghuang's lips curled into a cold smile, and he whispered to Big Gold to place him on a protrusion near the entrance of the cave. That protrusion could only accommodate one person standing on it. If one was not brave enough, he would not even dare to stand on it. "I'll hide here, the two of you attract its attention, and I'll stab it from behind and try to kill it in one blow." Zhou Donghuang instructed Big Gold and Little Gold. "Young master, you have the scent of a human on you. Even if it can't detect you from a distance in the cave, it will definitely detect you when it nears the entrance of the cave." Big Gold said to Zhou Donghuang. "The scent of a human?" Zhou Donghuang smiled faintly, and retrieved a small medicine bottle. He poured some liquid from it into his hand, and then picked up a layer of sand from the side of the mountain and mixed it into the bottle of liquid. Then, he casually rubbed his body with it. "Now, you can still smell the scent of a human on me?" Zhou Donghuang asked mockingly as he looked at Big Gold and Little Gold. "Young master, how did you do that?" Big Gold and Little Gold stared in shock, because they realized that they could no longer smell the scent of a human on the young man. Although there was still a scent coming from him, it was exactly the same as the smell of the sand on the mountain. He stood on the side of the mountain, as if he had become one with it. If not for the fact that they could see the young man with their own eyes, they would not have believed that there was a human standing there with their sharp senses of smell. "I'll tell you when it's settled." Zhou Donghuang's gaze suddenly hardened. "Get ready, the ephedrine is about to come out. Remember. Don't look in my direction, don't expose my whereabouts." Zhou Donghuang reminded the two golden-crowned eagles with a serious expression. He then stood there quietly, even breathing very slowly, afraid that the red goshawk that came out of the cave would discover his whereabouts. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Big Gold and Little Gold immediately looked away. At the same time, they circled around the entrance of the cave, their gazes never leaving the entrance. Whoosh! Very quickly, at the entrance of the cave, which was about 7 to 8 meters tall, appeared a giant eagle about 6 meters tall. Its body was covered with brown feathers, except for a tuft of hair on its head and the tips of its wings, which were red in color. After the giant eagle appeared, it stared at Big Gold and Little Gold with its sharp eyes. At the same time, it spoke in demon language to Big Gold and Little Gold, "It's you again." From the giant brown eagle's words, it obviously recognized Big Gold and Little Gold. "You recognize us?" Big Gold's eyes were filled with surprise. "Back then, I knew that you had developed intelligence, and on account of your loss, I spared your lives. I never thought that you would dare to come again." As soon as the giant brown eagle finished speaking, it flew out, its wings spreading more than 15 meters. You've reached the late Khanate stage?" Little Gold's eyes narrowed as he exclaimed. Chapter 130. Unlike the Qi gathering stage, which was divided into 11 levels, the Khanate stage was divided into 4 levels, namely, Early Khanate stage, Middle Khanate stage, Late Khanate stage, Ultimate Khanate stage. Early Khanate stage adepts or demons could release their Qi up to a foot, and their Qi could cut through metal like it was mud. When fighting with a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering, his opponent would be injured by his Qi before they could even touch him. The early Khanate stage could only be considered a basic Khanate stage. Advancing to the middle Khanate stage, their Qi could be released up to 3 feet, giving them an advantage in battle. At the late Khanate stage, their Qi could be released up to 3 feet, and they could easily kill or injure someone up to 3 meters away. The extreme Xiantian realm. Xiantian cultivators who had stepped into this realm were also the strongest existences among Xiantian cultivators. They could release their true Qi to a range of 3 zhang, which was a full 10 meters. They could kill someone within 10 meters without leaving a trace. Late Khanate stage. When they saw the red goshawk's wingspan of more than 15 meters, both Little Gold and Big Gold's pupils constricted, their eyes filled with disbelief. Not long ago, they had been saying that the red goshawk's level of practice was at most the middle Khanate stage, and it was impossible for it to reach the late Khanate stage, but now, the red goshawk's level of practice was clearly the late Khanate stage. "This time, since you've come, don't even think of leaving." The red goshawk's eyes were cold, and with a roar, it spread its wings and turned into a bolt of brown lightning, heading straight for Big Gold and Little Gold. Its speed was so fast that even Big Gold could not match it. They were not even on the same level. Buzz! Buzz! As the red goshawk spread its wings, a deep green Qi shot out, reaching up to 10 feet. It was like 2 sharp blades slicing through the air, heading straight for Big Gold and Little Gold. Seeing this, even though Big Gold and Little Gold had used the Qi increasing elixir and had increased their power significantly, they did not dare to take the brunt of the attack, and quickly retreated. Originally, at this point, it would have been best for them to split up and fly away. But to ensure that their young master did not fail, they chose to retreat in a straight line. Whoosh! The red goshawk had not noticed Zhou Donghuang's presence since it had appeared. Seeing Big Gold and Little Gold retreat in a straight line, it did not suspect anything and continued to close the distance between them. Just then. Whoosh! A short-lived whistling sound of a sword resounded in the air. At the same time, a small metal sword, surrounded by a cold glint, flew through the air at a speed faster than the red goshawk, aiming for the back of the red goshawk's head. If the red goshawk was hit, even if it was a late-stage Khanate demon, it would definitely die. Not good. Just as the small metal sword was about to pierce through the back of the red goshawk's head, it seemed to react in a flash, and its entire head tilted to the side. Poochie. However, the red goshawk's reaction was still half a beat too slow. The small metal sword did not hit the back of its head, but it still pierced through the back of its head, bringing with it a spray of fresh blood. Blood splattered across the sky, appearing incomparably gorgeous under the golden light. Kill it. Zhou Donghuang spoke to Big Gold and Little Gold in the demon tongue as he watched the Khanate red goshawk, which had been stabbed in the back of its head. After falling for a while, it flapped its wings and stabilized itself. A human? At that moment, the red goshawk tilted its heavily injured head slightly and saw Zhou Donghuang, and its eyes were filled with disbelief. It could not imagine how a human could know the demon tongue. It was even more difficult to imagine that this human had been hiding near the entrance of the cave, so why had it not smelled his scent? The scent of a human could not even be concealed from a demon of the Qi gathering stage, let alone a Khanate stage demon like it. Whoosh! Whoosh! As Zhou Donghuang spoke, the two golden-crowned eagles spread their wings and stopped at lightning speed, then turned into two bolts of black lightning as they charged towards the red goshawk. Now, with half of its head pierced through, the red goshawk was heavily injured, and the chi it exuded was faintly discernible. "Just the two of you, want to kill me?" Originally, the red goshawk had thought that even if a great consummation golden-crowned eagle and a petty consummation golden-crowned eagle joined forces, they would not be able to kill it in its current state. Although it did not have long to live, it could at least take down two of them with it before it died. However, when the two golden-crowned eagles charged towards it, it was shocked to discover that, not only was the golden-crowned eagle at great consummation of the chi gathering not an ordinary great consummation flying demon, even the petty consummation golden-crowned eagle displayed power that was comparable to an ordinary great consummation flying demon. Rip! Rip! After a while, Big Gold and Little Gold managed to tear the red goshawk into two halves at the cost of their injuries, killing it. As the red goshawk's corpse fell from the sky, the blood-stained Little Gold circled around the cave, its eyes filled with disbelief. "I never thought that a late Khanate stage demon would die at my hands." However, just as Little Gold finished speaking, Big Gold could not help but say, "Don't be so smug. If young master had not injured it so severely that it did not even have a tenth of its power, based on our power, we would have been courting death if we had charged in." As Big Gold spoke, it looked at Zhou Donghuang, its eyes filled with shock. "Young master, I had thought that since it was a late Khanate stage demon, you might not have been able to defeat it with your sword sphere. I never thought that you would have injured it so severely, giving us an opportunity. I was just lucky." Zhou Donghuang took a deep breath and had Little Gold send him to the entrance of the cave. His eyes were still filled with relief. After all, just now, even if he had attacked, he would not have been completely confident. "Didn't you say that it was at most a middle Khanate stage Khanate demon?" Thinking of the danger just now, Zhou Donghuang glared at Big Gold and Little Gold. "If you had not provided me with this information, would definitely have made more preparations. Luckily, we were lucky this time." Just now, when Zhou Donghuang had used the sword sphere, he had used up all the chi in his body. Furthermore, the chi in his body had been enhanced by the chi-increasing elixir. If he had not used the chi-increasing elixir, even if he had used up all the chi in his body to activate the sword sphere, he would not have been able to injure the red goshawk so severely. Because of this, he was rejoicing. Furthermore, even if Big Gold and Little Gold had been able to kill the red goshawk so easily, it was also because they had used the chi-increasing elixir. Otherwise, with their true power, even if the red goshawk had been severely injured, they might not have been able to kill it. "Young master, we did not expect this either." Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Big Gold smiled bitterly, and Little Gold could only smile bitterly as well. Even they could not have imagined that the red goshawk, which had an extremely lowly bloodline among the eagle-type demons, would be able to reach the late Khanate stage in such a short period of time in such a place. A late Khanate stage Khanate demon was not something that a middle Khanate stage demon could compare to. "Forget it, no matter what, we have survived this crisis." Zhou Donghuang shook his head, and when he looked at Big Gold and Little Gold again, his expression became a little strange. "Speaking of which, you two actually allowed the red goshawk's corpse to fall from the sky just like that? You must know, although it had not yet reached the primal core stage and formed its inner core, as a late Khanate stage Khanate demon, its flesh and bones were filled with an extremely rich spirit. That's the spirit accumulation that it nurtures when it cultivates by absorbing the spirit chi of the world. If you had consumed its corpse, Big Gold would have been one step closer to the Khanate stage, and as for Little Gold, he would definitely have reached great consummation of the chi gathering in a few days." Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, Big Gold and Little Gold spread their wings and flew downwards as if they had gone mad. Now, they were flying in the direction where the red goshawk's corpse had fallen. "What two silly birds!" Shaking his head again, Zhou Donghuang turned his attention back to the cave behind him. Now, standing there, he could still clearly feel the gentle ripples of energy coming from behind him. Most importantly, he could hear the sound of Buddhist chants ringing in his ears at all times. After all, Zhou Donghuang was not a Buddhist adept, and the sound of Buddhist chants was like the sound of nature to a Buddhist adept, but to him, it was no different from noise. Let's go in and take a look. With a thought, Zhou Donghuang took out a match and lit a fire. He then walked deeper into the cave, which became darker the further he went. Now, he pricked up his ears and could confirm that there were no other living beings inside. Furthermore, under normal circumstances, there could not be other living beings inside, because if there were other living beings, they would definitely fight with the red goshawk for the benefits of the Buddhist essence, and that was something the red goshawk could not tolerate. Young master, this is amazing. Zhou Donghuang slowly walked in, and after a few moments, Big Gold and Little Gold returned. Looking at the blood stains on their beaks, it was not difficult to see that they had already swallowed the red goshawk whole. Little Gold followed behind Zhou Donghuang, its eyes filled with admiration as it looked at Zhou Donghuang's back. If not for your reminder, I would never have thought that the red goshawk's body could bring me so many benefits. I can now feel that the final bottleneck of petty consummation of the qi gathering has loosened, and if I start practicing now, I am confident that I can break through the bottleneck within a day and attain great consummation of the qi gathering. As he spoke, Little Gold's voice became more and more excited. Although Big Gold did not speak, the uncontrollable excitement in its eyes was enough to show that it was no less excited than Little Gold. The red goshawk's body was just the appetizer. The real treasure in this place is the Buddhist essence. Zhou Donghuang did not even turn back as he walked deeper into the cave, his footsteps becoming faster and faster. Chapter 131. Buddhist Nidan. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, the eyes of the two golden-crowned eagles behind him, both Big Gold and Little Gold, lit up. Young master, that red goshawk, a lowly eagle-type demon of a lowly bloodline, managed to attain the late Khanate stage with the help of that Buddhist essence. That Buddhist essence must be something else, right? Little Gold asked as he followed closely behind the young man leading the way. It is indeed something else. Zhou Donghuang nodded as he walked. Based on what you have said, and the fact that the red goshawk attained the late Khanate stage, the monk who left that Buddhist essence behind was at least of the ultimate primal core stage, or possibly even of the Dharma laws stage. Dharma laws. That was a stage above the primal core stage. Big Gold and Little Gold knew this as well, so when they heard Zhou Donghuang's words, their eyes widened. Dharma. Dharma laws? Even if it was a Buddhist essence left behind by a monk of the Dharma laws stage, there would not be much energy left in it now. Zhou Donghuang sighed, but then said, however, even if there is not much power left in the Buddhist essence, and it is not as useful to us as it was when it was at its peak, it is still very useful to us now. All in all, we have gained a lot this time. As he said this, a deep light appeared in the depths of Zhou Donghuang's eyes, and under the reflection of the light from the match in his hand, it was exceptionally beautiful. Young master. After Little Gold, Big Gold also spoke up. That bottle of medicine you took out just now, what kind of medicine is it? It can actually help you hide your human scent. Big Gold was very clear, if not for the fact that the young man had used that bottle of medicine to hide his human scent and ambush the red goshawk without it noticing. Even if they had all taken the qi-increasing elixir, they might not have been able to kill the red goshawk. That is a flavor-mixing liquid, which I made using the leftover ingredients from other medicines. Hearing Big Gold's question, Zhou Donghuang's footsteps involuntarily slowed down. That scent-mixing liquid, after coming into contact with anything and rubbing it on your body, will be able to mask your scent for an hour, revealing only that scent. The scent-mixing liquid was an unpopular liquid that Zhou Donghuang had made on a whim. Although he had made more than 10 bottles, he only had 1 bottle with him. Before today, he would never have thought that. That bottle of scent-mixing liquid could also come in handy. It could be said that it played a role in turning the tide at a critical moment. Today, if not for the odor-mixing liquid that prevented the red goshawk from discovering my tracks, even if I had consumed the qi-increasing elixir, without the advantage of a sneak attack, it would have been difficult to kill it. Zhou Donghuang knew that in order to kill the Khanate stage red goshawk today, both the qi-increasing elixir and the flavor-mixing liquid were indispensable. Of course, Big Gold and Little Gold straight-line retreat also played a crucial role. Humans are really amazing. They can even concoct this kind of medicinal liquid. As Little Gold sighed, a hint of fear appeared in its eyes. This meant that if any other human had used this liquid to attack it, they would have been able to succeed in a sneak attack as well. We're here. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang could see that there was no longer a path in front of them. At the same time, he saw a pile of bones scattered on the ground at the side of the cave, mixed with pieces of clothing. Most importantly, amidst the pile of scattered bones, there was a faint golden bead. Even from a distance, one could feel the cold intent emanating from it, as if it was repelling people thousands of miles away. Young master, this is the Buddhist essence? Little Gold stared at the faint golden bead and asked with widened eyes. Zhou Donghuang nodded, but Little Gold's eyes were filled with confusion. Young master, didn't you say that the golden light outside was emitted by the Buddhist essence? Why is it not glowing now? Furthermore, from the moment we entered the cave, we could no longer see the golden light. You can't see the golden light inside the cave because there is no light, but it is still filled with the energy that it emits. As for the golden light outside, it is the result of its energy merging with the light outside. Zhou Donghuang explained, if you look outside at night and there is moonlight and starlight, you can still see the faint golden light, but if there is no moonlight and starlight, you will not be able to see the golden light. I see. Little Gold was enlightened. At the same time, Big Gold's eyes shone as he stared at the Buddhist essence. He did not forget to ask the youth, young master, this Buddhist essence. What level of cultivation did the Buddhist cultivator leave behind? Can you tell? Ever since Zhou Donghuang's gaze had landed on the Buddhist essence, it had not left it. Now, hearing Big Gold's question, his eyes flashed, and he said directly, this Buddhist essence was left behind by an early Dharma monk after he passed away. It looks like, even when you discovered it, it had already passed the stage where it could absorb spirit energy to replenish its energy, and had entered the countdown to its death. Otherwise, its Buddhist light would not only have extended to the place where you had awakened your intelligence. Now, there is only less than 20% of the power left in it. It is almost equivalent to a Buddhist essence left behind by a late primal core stage Buddhist monk. As he spoke, Zhou Donghuang's eyes shone even brighter. To him now, not to mention a Buddhist essence left behind by a late primal core stage Buddhist adept, even a Buddhist essence left behind by an early primal core stage Buddhist adept would be a treasure that could only be found by luck and not sought after. Early Dharma stage? Late primal core stage? Both Big Gold and Little Gold were visibly disappointed when they heard Zhou Donghuang's words. If this had been a Buddhist essence left behind by a late primal core stage monk who had passed away, they would have been pleasantly surprised. However, after knowing that this was a Buddhist essence left behind by an early Dharma adept, not only were they no longer surprised, they instead felt a little disappointed, as they felt that they had missed the best opportunity. Be content with what you have. The glint in the eyes of the two golden-crowned eagles made it easy for Zhou Donghuang to see their disappointment, and he said mildly, think about it, if you hadn't told me about this, by the time you came back as Khanate demons, it might already be gone. Even if it was still here, the power within it would definitely be depleted, and that red goshawk's level of practice might have already reached the ultimate Khanate stage. An ultimate Khanate red goshawk, is it something that you, who have just become Khanate demons, can fight against? As Zhou Donghuang spoke, the eyes of Big Gold and Little Gold not only brightened, but even brightened. What Zhou Donghuang said made sense, and the situation now was already very good. Young master, do you have a way to retrieve it? Big Gold asked Zhou Donghuang doubtfully. After all, even the late Khanate Red Goshawk had not been able to retrieve the Buddhist essence, and the young man before him had not even reached the Khanate stage. Big Gold doubted that he would be able to retrieve it. Zhou Donghuang did not speak, using his actions to answer Big Gold's question. He reached out with a seemingly casual hand and easily grabbed the Buddhist essence. In reality, the hand that Zhou Donghuang used to hold the Buddhist essence was continuously emitting waves of warm qi, infusing it into the Buddhist essence, using a special method to suppress the icy cold power that was rampaging on the surface of the Buddhist essence. In the instant that the Buddhist essence entered Zhou Donghuang's hand, the icy cold aura that emanated from the Buddhist essence seemed to have completely disappeared. More accurately, it had been retracted. Let's go back. Looking around and seeing that there was nothing else of value, Zhou Donghuang called out to the two golden-crowned eagles and left the place. The two golden-crowned eagles very quickly realized that after they left, the golden light outside had already disappeared. Young master, what's going on? Why has the golden light that emanated from the Buddhist essence disappeared? I've already used my qi to seal the loss of power within it, so its power no longer extends out. Naturally, it will not merge with the light outside and turn into a golden light that can be seen by the naked eye. Zhou Donghuang looked at the Buddhist essence in his hand and said calmly, "You should have noticed long ago, in the instant that I picked up this Buddhist essence, not only did the icy cold aura disappear, but the sound that reached your ears also disappeared." Whoosh! Whoosh! The two golden-crowned eagles once again transformed into two streaks of lightning, flying back in the direction that they had come from. They were officially on their way back. Young master. On the way, Little Gold asked curiously, since the Buddhist essence left behind by a Buddhist monk is a good thing, why did that Buddhist monk choose a place like this to die in? Moreover, his Buddhist Sarira is also here. Why didn't he just die in front of his friends and family and leave the Buddhist essence for them? Little Gold was clearly very confused about this. The Buddhist way is about following one's fate. Apart from a small number of Buddhist monks who choose to die in front of their friends and family or their disciples, leaving their Buddhist essence for them, most Buddhist monks are very particular about fate. Most Buddhist cultivators pay more attention to fate. They will often choose a place where no one knows to leave their Buddhist relics and wait for the fated one. Zhou Donghuang said. What if there is no fated one? Wouldn't that be a waste of the Buddhist essence? Little Gold asked again. To most Buddhist monks, even if the Buddhist essence does not wait for the fated one and disappears in the end, it is also a form of fate. Zhou Donghuang continued. Young master, what do you intend to do with the Buddhist essence? Big Gold asked curiously. Don't worry, there will be plenty of benefits for you. Zhou Donghuang smiled lightly. Chapter 132. August 5, 1229 of the Ziyun era, noon. A travel-worn old man rode a huge demon as he swaggered into the main gates of the imperial city of Yunyang, attracting the attention of many. The demon that the old man was riding looked like a leopard, but it was different from an ordinary wild leopard. It was a demonic beast that looked like a leopard. Its entire body was grayish-black, and its fur was glossy. Its eyes were as big as gongs, and two sharp fangs were clamped at the corners of its mouth. It was extremely intimidating. It's a level 7 demon, lightning leopard. Many people recognized the demon that the old man was riding. Although demon mounts were common in the imperial city of Yunyang, level 7 demon mounts were rare. Other than members of the imperial family, only a few members of the elite tycoon families within the imperial city owned such mounts. Moreover, even the few top tycoon families only had one or two beasts of this level as mounts. Because of this, the old man riding the lightning leopard on the streets of the imperial city attracted the attention of many people. I only hope that His Majesty the Emperor will not vent his anger on me. The old man muttered to himself as he rode the lightning leopard towards the imperial palace. A bitter smile appeared on his lips, and his eyes were filled with helplessness. This old man was none other than the second elder of the Chu royal family of the western ridge of the Chu king, Xiang Donghua. This was the second time that Xiang Donghua had come to the imperial city of Yunyang this year. The first time was because a youth had appeared in the western ridge of the Chu king who had tamed the two great consummation flying demon golden-crowned eagles from the lost forest. That youth had ignored the imperial order and had ordered the golden-crowned eagles to destroy the Tycoon Fan family of the western ridge of the Chu king. The Chu royal family had no choice but to report the matter to the imperial family. However, although he had brought back the strongest of the imperial family, as well as the flying demon cloud condor that the imperial family had painstakingly trained, they had all been killed by that youth. Because he had brought back both the man and the bird, when the Chu king had asked him to return to the imperial city to report the matter to the imperial family, he had sternly refused. What a joke! Both the man and the bird had been brought back by him. What if the imperial family was angry at him? Because he refused to go, in the end, the Chu royal household sent someone to report to the imperial court of Yunyang country. This time, it was still the follow-up of that incident. As the news that the man and the rock had been killed by the youth reached the imperial court of Yunyang country, the previous emperor of Yunyang country, the current emperor of Yunyang country, Jiang Yunding, who was already a Khanate stage adept, came personally to the Chu royal city of the western ridge of the Chu king. Then, he personally went to see the young man. However, before he could even enter the door, he was killed by that young man. Moreover, he was also killed by a single blow. Jiang Yunding, the retired emperor of the country of Yunyang, the only Khanate stage adept in the country of Yunyang, had died in the Chu royal city of the western ridge of the Chu king, and in an inn owned by the Chu royal family. This matter was of utmost importance, and it had to be reported to the imperial court of Yunyang country as soon as possible. He had once again been sent over by the Chu king. "We're here." Xiang Donghua rode on the lightning leopard and hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and entering the imperial palace. He hesitated for a moment before entering the imperial palace. In the throne room, the emperor of Yunyang country, Jiang Tianchen, sat at the head of the table, looking down at Xiang Donghua with a slightly gloomy expression. Although Xiang Donghua hadn't said anything yet, he already had an ominous premonition. "Speak," Jiang Tianchen said in a low voice. Xiang Donghua took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. "Your Majesty, my condolences." Crack. Almost as soon as Xiang Donghua finished speaking, Jiang Tianchen's right arm shook, and the right armrest of the throne was broken by his grip. Wood splinters flew everywhere. He had been comforting himself that his father must have met with something on the way back, and that was why he had not returned to the imperial court. Now, Xiang Donghua's words confirmed his greatest worry. "Your Majesty, please calm down." Seeing Jiang Tianchen's anger, Xiang Donghua was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. His expression changed, and his body trembled as he hurriedly knelt on the ground, his head touching the ground, not daring to get up. Of course, Xiang Donghua's action was a smart one, as it could at least preserve his life. "Speak." When Jiang Tianchen spoke again, although his tone was indifferent, it was clear that he was trying hard to suppress his anger. "Your Majesty." Xiang Donghua took a deep breath and gathered his courage to stand up. He looked at Jiang Tianchen respectfully and said, when the retired emperor arrived at the Chu royal city, he went directly to the Chu royal household to find out more about the young man, and then went to the inn where the young man was staying. According to the witnesses in the inn, the retired emperor was courteous and wanted to talk to the young man. However, the young man didn't even let him through the door. Then, the retired emperor forced the young man to hand over the first-rate martial art. Xiang Donghua told Jiang Tianchen truthfully, the young man refused, and the retired emperor threatened that if he did not hand it over, the imperial court would inform the Valley of the Medicine Masters of certain matters regarding him. That way, the Valley of the Medicine Masters would give the imperial court a first-grade technique. Then, in a fit of rage, the young man attacked, and with a single stroke of his sword, he he killed the retired emperor, who was standing outside the door. Before the retired emperor died, he drew his sword from his waist, but was unable to block the young man's sword that transformed from a metal ball. Xiang Donghua finished in one breath. Following Xiang Donghua's words, the atmosphere in the throne room became exceptionally stifling. Jiang Tianqun did not speak for a long time, and Xiang Donghua did not dare to stand up, kneeling there obediently. How was father's body disposed of in the end? Finally, Jiang Tianqun spoke, his gaze fixed on Xiang Donghua as he asked in a low voice. Your Majesty, our king ordered that the retired emperor's body be placed in an ice coffin. At the same time, when the Chu royal household has prepared enough ice bricks, the retired emperor's body will be sent all the way to the imperial city. Xiang Donghua said hurriedly. Jiang Tianqun nodded in satisfaction, and then said, if there is nothing else, you may leave. Yes, Your Majesty. As Xiang Donghua left the throne room, the back of his robe was completely soaked in cold sweat, but he did not seem to care, and instead heaved a long sigh of relief. After Xiang Donghua left the throne room, Jiang Tianqun did not leave, but Jiang Tianqun's entourage also hurriedly left the throne room. Not long after, the senior officials of the imperial court of Yunyang once again gathered in the throne room. That night, the emperor of Yunyang, Jiang Tianqun, personally rode out of the palace on a demon steed. The demon that Jiang Tianqun was riding on was a giant lion with a golden mane all over its body. When it ran, it was so fast that it was no slower than the petty consummation flying demon of the Yunyang imperial court, the cloud condor. And this was the other petty consummation demon that the imperial court of Yunyang had tamed, the fiery lion. When the fiery lion ran, the golden fur all over its body moved, like a golden flame burning brightly, beautiful and eye-catching. However, even though the blazing lion's speed wasn't slower than the cloud rocks, it wasn't a flying demonic beast after all, so it couldn't ignore the road. Therefore, in terms of traveling speed, it was still a distance away from the cloud rock. Now, after Jiang Tianqun rode the fiery lion out of the palace, he directly left the imperial city of Yunyang and sped in one direction. And that direction was the direction of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. If I report the matter of that youth to the second elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Chen Tianhe, who is usually in contact with our country of Yunyang, with Chen Tianhe's greedy personality, even if he reports it to the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, he will definitely take all the credit and not mention my contribution. As Jiang Tianqun hurried along, his eyes flashed. So, it's better for me to make this trip personally. If this time the imperial court of Yunyang is unable to obtain any practical benefits from the Valley of the Medicine Masters, father will have died in vain. Thinking of the death of his own father, Jiang Yunding, Jiang Tianqun's expression became extremely gloomy. Zhou Donghuang, is it? I want to see how you fight the Valley of the Medicine Masters. After many days, Jiang Tianqun finally rode the fiery lion and arrived at one of the gates of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. I am the Emperor of Yunyang, chief of the Jiang family of the Imperial Court of Yunyang, Jiang Tianqun. I have something very important to discuss with the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. In front of the mountain gate, after Jiang Tianqun had stated his identity, he stood outside the mountain gate of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and waited patiently for the disciple who was guarding the gate to enter the Valley of the Medicine Masters to report to him. Although he was the ruler of a country, he did not dare to put on airs in front of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. About half an hour later, the disciple who had gone to report returned and conveyed the words of the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Chief Jiang, the head of the valley has asked me to bring you in. Thank you. Just before arriving at the mountain gate of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Jiang Tianqun had already leapt off the back of the fiery lion and led it along. Now, to enter the mountain gate of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, one had to lead the fiery lion in. And this was also the rule of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Other than Khanate stage adepts, within the Valley of the Medicine Masters, no one was allowed to ride a demon beast around, whether it was a member of the Valley of the Medicine Masters or an outsider. Head of the valley. About a quarter of an hour later, Jiang Tianchen met the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. As for his fiery lion, it had also been placed somewhere else by the people of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, and had not come with him to the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The place where the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters lived was a courtyard in front of a small waterfall in a corner of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. It was filled with all kinds of flowers and plants, and there were also some colorful, different shapes, and obviously unusual plants. Emperor of Yunyang Country, are you looking for me? The head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was a middle-aged man dressed in an elegant grey robe. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and his face was like jade. It was not difficult to tell that he had been a handsome man when he was young, and even now, he still had the special charm of a mature man. Chapter 133. This was the second time Jiang Tianchen had seen the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters. Years ago, before he had inherited the throne of Yunyang Country, he had followed his father, the then Yunyang Emperor Jiang Yunding, to the Valley of Medicine Masters to pay a visit to the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters. Back then, he had been a youth not even 30 years old. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed, and he had grown old. Time had left its mark on his face, but the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters before him still looked like a middle-aged man 30 years ago. Although I have long heard that the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters has a technique for maintaining his youthful looks, I did not expect that he would still look the same as he did 30 years ago. Jiang Tianchen looked at the middle-aged man before him, and after a moment of silence, he fell into a daze. The fact that the other party looked the same as he did 30 years ago was too much of a shock to him. Was this really the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters, and not a descendant of the previous head of the Valley of Medicine Masters? Although he had long heard that the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters had a technique for maintaining his youthful looks, that was just a rumor. Now that he had seen it for himself, Jiang Tianchen's heart was shaken, and it took him a long time to recover. Even when the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters spoke, he could not react in time. Jiang Tianchen, is it? Even your father would not dare to be so rude in front of me. The scholarly middle-aged man, who was also the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters, Su Mo, saw that Jiang Tianchen was ignoring him. Although his expression did not change much, his eyes flashed with a cold light, startling Jiang Tianchen so much that he snapped back to his senses. Don't blame me, head of the Valley of Medicine Masters. I was just shocked to see that you look as young as you did 30 years ago. Jiang Tianchen bowed as he spoke, his tone apologetic. Although he was the Emperor of Yunyang Country, the ruler of Yunyang Country, in front of the middle-aged man before him, he did not dare to be the slightest bit presumptuous. Not to mention the fact that the other party was the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, which was above all the 16 countries of the East Valley, including the country of Yunyang. Just based on the other party's level of practice, he did not dare to be the slightest bit presumptuous in front of him. The person before him was not only the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters, but also a Khanate adept who had entered the late Khanate stage. One had to admit that Jiang Tianchen was a smooth talker. At least, when these words fell into the ears of Su Mo, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Su Mo's originally fierce gaze softened considerably. Speak, what urgent matter has brought you here personally to see me about? Valley Master, my father has been killed. Jiang Tianchen took a deep breath before he slowly opened his mouth. As he spoke, his tone involuntarily became deeper. In front of Su Mo, the head of the Valley of Medicine Masters, Jiang Tianchen, the Emperor of Yunyang Country, did not dare to address himself as the Emperor, and so he obediently addressed himself as I, like a normal person. Oh. Su Mo raised an eyebrow. As far as I know, your father, Jiang Yunding, has already attained the early Khanate stage for some time. Recently, has a Khanate adept gone to Yunyang Country to cause trouble? As his voice fell, a cold light flashed in Su Mo's eyes, ready to devour someone. All the 16 countries of the East Valley, including the country of Yunyang, were under the protection of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Because of this, although many of the 16 countries of the East Valley did not have a Khanate adept, no Khanate adept dared to cause trouble. Because behind the 16 countries of the East Valley was the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Now, hearing that the old emperor of the imperial court of Yunyang country, Jiang Yunding, who had already attained the Khanate stage, had been killed, the first thought that came to Su Mo, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, was that someone did not respect the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Killing Jiang Yunding was tantamount to slapping the Valley of the Medicine Masters in the face. Valley Master, my father was not killed by a Khanate adept. The person who killed my father was at most a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering. Jiang Tianchen said with a bitter face. Jiang Yunding, who had already attained the Khanate stage for many years, was killed by a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering? Could it be that he has been living like a dog all these years? The cold light in Su Mo's eyes disappeared, and in its place was a thick disdain. An early Khanate adept dying at the hands of a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering was a disgrace to the Khanate adepts. At this moment, Su Mo felt that Jiang Yunding was a disgrace to the Khanate adepts. Valley Master, even if that person was only a great consummation adept of the Qi gathering, he was not an ordinary great consummation adept. Sensing Su Mo's disdain for his deceased father, although Jiang Tianchen was furious, he did not dare to show it. Forcing a bitter smile, he said, that person was most likely a lucky fellow who had obtained a treasure left behind by a Primal Core adept. Primal Core adept? Su Mo's pupils constricted, and his originally calm expression changed in that instant. In his hand, there was a small metal ball that could transform into a sword. The sword looked unassuming, but it was surrounded by a cold light that could be seen with the naked eye, and when it flew out, it could easily kill. My father was killed by the small metal ball in his hand, killed by the small metal ball that transformed into a sword. Jiang Tianchen continued, although my father was vigilant and attacked at the right time, he was still unable to withstand that sword. Small metal ball? Transformed into a sword? Su Mo's eyes narrowed again, and his gaze fell on Jiang Tianchen as he asked in a low voice, "Are you sure the small metal ball in that person's hand could transform into a sword?" Su Mo's sudden seriousness put a certain amount of pressure on Jiang Tianchen, and he took a deep breath before speaking again. "Valley Master, although I did not see it with my own eyes, many people in the Chu royal household of the western ridge of the Chu king in Yunyang country saw it clearly. Most importantly, my father was killed by the small metal sword that the small metal ball transformed into." At this point, Jiang Tianchen paused for a moment before continuing, "As for the reason why I suspect that he had obtained an opportunity left behind by a Primal Core adept, this small metal ball that can transform into a sword is only one of the reasons. The other reason is the advancement of his level of practice. 2 years ago, he was 16 years old, and a well-known martial invalid, and now, he is only 18 years old, and it seems that he has already attained great consummation of the Qi gathering. Most importantly, he was not born into any noble family, but was born and raised in a small, remote town in an inferior prefecture of the western ridge of the Chu king." Jiang Tianchen said all this in one breath. 16 years old, martial invalid? Su Mo's eyes narrowed again, and his expression changed again. 18 years old, and it seems that he has attained great consummation of the Qi gathering? Furthermore, with that small metal ball that seems to be a sword sphere, he killed the previous emperor of Yunyang country, the early Khanate stage adept Jiang Yunding? Su Mo had read in an ancient book passed down through the generations of the Valley of the Medicine Masters that there was a record of a sharp weapon that only adepts of the Primal Core stage and above could produce. And that sharp weapon was known as the Sword Sphere. Within the Sword Sphere, there were all sorts of complicated spells, and if one did not know how to use the Sword Sphere, there was no way of activating it. However, once the Sword Sphere was activated, it could unleash a terrifying destructive power, and the more Qi was infused into it, the more powerful it was. According to the ancient book, when a middle Khanate stage adept activates the sword sphere with all his might, the success rate of killing an ultimate Khanate stage adept in a sneak attack is more than 80%. When a late Khanate stage adept activates the sword sphere with all his might, even without a sneak attack, as long as he has the upper hand, he can easily kill an ultimate Khanate stage adept. At this thought, Su Mo's eyes flashed, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. After a moment, Su Mo's gaze sharpened, and once again fell on Jiang Tianchen. "You should know the consequences of lying to me." As he said this, there was no lack of warning in Su Mo's eyes. Valley Head. Seeing Su Mo's reaction, Jiang Tianchen knew that the Valley Head before him was very interested in the young man's fortuitous encounter, or else he would not have repeatedly confirmed the truth of what he had just said. "If I, Jiang Tianchen, say even half a word of falsehood today, Valley Head, you can take my life at any time," Jiang Tianchen said seriously, not hesitating to use his life as a guarantee. Seeing this, Su Mo no longer had any doubts, and immediately took out a short flute, put it to his mouth, and blew a piercing sound. The sound of the flute rolled out like waves, spreading far and wide. Whoosh! Just as Jiang Tianchen was frowning slightly at the piercing sound of the flute, he heard a swift sound piercing the air. When he raised his head and looked in the direction of the sound, he saw a white crane with a wingspan of more than 10 meters appeared above him and the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Su Mo. It circled in the air, its sharp gaze fixed on Su Mo. "This is the Khanate stage demon of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, the silver-crowned crane?" With just one glance, Jiang Tianchen saw the silver crown on the white crane's head, and immediately guessed that this white crane was the Khanate stage flying demon of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Khanate stage demon, the silver-crowned crane. "Old friend, come with me for a while," Su Mo said to the silver-crowned crane with a smile. Normally, even a Khanate stage demon that had awakened its intelligence would find it difficult to understand human language. However, if a Khanate stage demon lived for a long time, and humans often used human language to communicate with it, over time, it would not be difficult for such a Khanate stage demon to understand human language. However, even if it could completely understand human language, a Khanate stage demon would not be able to speak it. This was because a demon had a throat bone, so it could only communicate with a demon, and could not speak human language. Only a primal core demon that had condensed its inner core and entered the primal core stage could use the inner core to refine the throat bone, and thus speak human language and communicate with humans. Whoosh! Whoosh! As Su Mo spoke, the silver-crowned crane in the air swooped down, and then carried Su Mo into the air, speeding in the direction of Yunyang country. Jiang Tianchen, the emperor of Yunyang country, was also brought onto the back of the crane by Su Mo. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.